Hey everyone, I'm Josh from WPSculptor.com. Today, I'm going to show you how to make this premium website with WordPress. Let's take a look. This is the exact website I'm going to show you how to create step by step without skipping anything. And as you can see, this website is incredibly professional looking. It's also mobile friendly and highly customizable. I'm using a mock music studio for the content of this site, but of course you can make a website for any type of business or brand, and even if you have no prior experience with web design, you'll still be able to follow along with this tutorial. Now, I wanted this tutorial site to be comparable to websites used by other major companies, so I sought inspiration from the sites of companies like Airbnb, and from this moving company startup called Bellhops, and then this other company called Glowforge. And as you can see, all these example sites utilize a video background showcasing their product or service. And this is just one of the many phenomenal features that the Divi theme offers, though you don't have to use a video background. You could just use a background image like this, or a background image like this. Now, I do want to point out that we will be using a premium theme called Divi, and you can purchase the Divi theme for $69, and I'll show you how to do that. There are many benefits to using the Divi theme, and you'll see those all throughout this tutorial. And we'll be jumping right into the main part of the tutorial in just a moment, but first I want to give you a quick overview of what we'll be discussing, and I'll just click on the logo to be taken back to the home page. I'll show you how to get your own domain name and set up a hosting account. I'm actually using a subdomain for this tutorial, but you'll be able to get your own domain name. The Divi theme is so innovative that virtually every component of your website can be customized. I have this green color scheme that you see here, but I'll show you how you can come up with your own professional custom color schemes with no graphic design experience necessary. You'll also be able to add your own logo, and I'll show you how to use free resources to create that logo. So for this top section, I chose to include a video background with a slogan and a call to action that has a button linking to another page, and you'll be able to customize your buttons so that they look however you want them to. So I'll show you how to do all of that. We'll also be discussing how to change section background colors, as well as using Blurb modules with icons, and the Divi theme includes nearly 400 icons to choose from, and you can customize the color of each icon. I'll also show you how to add images and Blurb modules with smaller icons like you see here, and you'll learn how to utilize background images with the parallax effect that you see here, and I'll also show you where I go to get all my free high-quality stock photos that you see throughout this site. We'll go over how to create slideshows like you see here, and how to use the Testimonial module that you see here and here. And we'll also be discussing how to customize the footer with your own colors and your own content. And I'll show you how to use these optional social media icons in your footer as well. We'll also go over how to set up custom navigation menus with drop-down functionality like you see here, as well as utilize a navigation menu above the header. And there are color, transparency, size, and positioning options for your entire header area. And you can also add a menu to your footer area if you wanted to. You can also create custom layouts for every single page on your site, so any page can have as many different sections with as many different rows and columns as you want. And of course, you'll be able to control your font options and the type of content that goes on every single page you create. And there are nearly 40 modules included with the Divi theme, so you can add content like image galleries and videos, contact forms, maps, pricing tables, and many other types of content. I also want to point out that I've included a timestamp table of contents in the video description on YouTube, so just scroll down and click on Show More beneath this video to pull that up. Then you'll be able to click on these time codes to be taken to different sections of the video. You'll also find other items such as my affiliate links and some of the CSS code that I'll be showing you. And I'll be going step by step throughout this tutorial without skipping anything so that everyone can easily follow along. Okay, the first thing we need to do is set up a hosting account and a domain name, and for that I highly recommend using a company called HostGator.com. They've got a wonderful product and service and excellent pricing, and they also have an option for you to pay by the month, which makes it easier and cheaper to get started. So let's go ahead and go to HostGator.com, and then click on Web Hosting here at the top. And we'll scroll down and you can see you have 3 different options and they're all currently 20% off. I'm going to show you how to get actually up to 50% off here in just a moment. Now, the hatchling plan is going to be your cheapest plan because it's only for hosting one domain on that account. And then the baby plan is a great value because you can host as many domains as you want on one account. So if you have multiple websites or plan on having multiple websites, then this is going to be a great value option for you. And then the business plan has the same features as the baby plan, plus a free private security feature and a free toll-free number that most people probably don't need. So we're going to go ahead and go with the baby plan for now. So click on Sign Up Now. Now, the first thing you need to do is choose a domain name. And of course, a domain name is what your users would type into their web browser to access your website, such as youtube.com or amazon.com, for example. If you already have a domain registered with another company, such as GoDaddy, you would click on this tab here, and then you would enter your current domain here and then complete the rest of the hosting sign-up process. And afterwards, HostGator will send you special instructions for how to link your hosting account to your domain name. If you do need to register a new domain, stay on this tab here. And I actually already own my domain name, which is quickwebsitecreation.com. And because I don't want to have to purchase a new domain every time I make a new video tutorial, I'm going to be using a subdomain. And for this tutorial, it's going to be music.quickwebsitecreation.com. But in your case, you will need to register a new domain name if you don't have one. So just to show you what it would look like, you would enter the domain that you want in this box here, and we'll just say we want My Music Studio. And then you have several different domain endings to choose from. When you click on .com, you have the .com and then all of these others. And we're going to choose the .com. So once we select that, it's going to tell us whether or not this mymusicstudio.com domain is available. And you can see here that this domain is currently not available, and it also tells you whether or not these other domain endings are available. So you could select one of these other options if you wanted to, but if you wanted to find a .com, then you would just need to get a little more creative with your domain name. So let's try again, and we'll go back up and add My Music Studio Lessons, and then I'll select .com again. And as you can see here, this particular domain, mymusicstudiolessons.com, is available, and I can get it for $12.95 for a full year. You do have the option here to purchase domain privacy protection for $9.95 a year, which you may want to consider, but I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that because I want to get started as cheaply as possible. Then we're going to scroll down, and the next thing you need to do is choose your hosting plan. And if you only need to host one website, then I would go with the hatchling plan, which will be your cheapest option. But if you do need to host more than one website or plan on hosting more than one website in the future, like I mentioned, the baby plan is definitely what you want. So I'm just going to choose the baby plan for now. And then for the billing cycle, you can see that all of these options are now 20% off. And I'm going to show you how to get a much bigger discount of up to 50% off in just a minute. But for now, let's just say you wanted the baby plan and you wanted it for 12 months. You can select that here. And this way you would pay for 12 months in advance, but you would get the 20% discount on those 12 months. Then you'll need to choose a username following the criteria below here and do the same thing with a security pin, and be sure to remember that. And then you're going to want to enter your billing information here. And you'll want to use your primary email address just because HostGator will send you important information about your account. And then you can either pay with a credit or debit card here, or you can pay with PayPal here. And after you put that information in, scroll down, and by default, sometimes these additional services are added on, and I'm going to go ahead and uncheck these. You can always add these later, but usually it's just easier to get started as cheaply as possible for most people. Now, this coupon code, SNAPPY, gives you 20% off your hosting purchase. And you can see that 20% discount is reflected in your hosting charge below. If you take 20% off of $143.40, you get $114.72. Now, I've got a couple of different codes that give you a much better deal than that. The first one is WP Sculptor 30, and that's WP Sculptor 30. So type that in, and then watch the price drop when I click on Validate. You can see the price dropped considerably. Now, this WP Sculptor 30 coupon will actually give you 50% or up to 50% off of your hosting plan. So if we scroll up, notice that it is 42% off for the baby plan. But if you chose the hatchling plan and selected the 36-month billing cycle, it would actually be a 50% discount. Now, The other coupon code I have is for those of you who just want to pay for 1 month at a time, and you can actually get your first month of hosting for just 1 cent. So to demonstrate that, I'll just choose the baby plan and then select the 1 month billing cycle. And then I'll scroll down, and the code that you can use is WP Sculptor 1 cent. So type that in, click on validate, and you can see that your first month of hosting is just 1 cent. And then after that, you would be billed $11.95 a month as long as you choose to continue hosting your site. Now, I do want to point out that if you do use one of my coupon codes, I will receive a commission for referring you to HostGator. So it's a great way to help support me and these videos that I make while also enabling you to save more money. So I really appreciate your support if you choose to do that. All right, so you can see that you'll get 24/7 customer support, free instant account activation, a 45-day money-back guarantee, and your domain is going to cost $12.95, and that will cover you for an entire year. And your first month of hosting is just 1 cent with the WP Sculptor 1 cent coupon code. And then it will be $11.95 a month after that, as long as you choose to continue hosting your website. Then just click that you've read and agreed to the terms of service and click on Checkout Now. All right, after about 50 minutes or so, you're going to check your email, and you should have an email from sales@hostgator.com. Go ahead and click on that to open it up. And you definitely want to save this email. It's got some important information about your account. And one of the things we need is the link to our control panel, which is going to be here. And then we have the username that we specified here and an automatically generated password. So to log into our control panel, I'm going to click on the control panel link that's going to open up in a new tab. And then you'll need to go back and get your username, and you'll need to copy the password that it gave you. Be sure to get every character and don't get any extra characters like that. Just get all the characters, and we'll type that in. Of course, I've already changed my password, but you would just paste that in. Click on Login. And we can go ahead and exit out of that. And this is what your control panel looks like. This is where we're going to install WordPress onto our hosting account. So we'll scroll down, and underneath Software and Services, we're going to click on this Quick Install icon. And then to install WordPress, we're going to come over here to the left and click on WordPress. And then we just click on Install WordPress here on the right. And in this first box here, you're going to select your domain, and you should only have your domain showing up. I've got all these different subdomains on my account, and I'm going to actually use music.quickwebsitecreation.com, but you'll just select your domain there, and then leave this box blank. And then for the admin email, just enter your email address. And then give your website a title, and you can always change this. I'll show you how to change this in just a moment. And then specify your WordPress username and your first and your last name. And then click on Install WordPress. Exit out of that. All right, and once you get the message that your install is complete, click on View Credentials here, and you're going to have the link to your admin area, which is your WordPress login screen, and it should just be your domain /WP-admin, and then the username, your WordPress username that you just filled out, and then this automatically generated password. And you definitely want to save this password because we're going to need that to log into the backend of our WordPress site. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to open up a text file and paste that in there so I have that. And even though our WordPress installation is complete, we still won't be able to access our website right away. Anytime you register a new domain, it has to go through a process called propagation, and this usually takes several hours, but sometimes it can take longer, so just be patient with the process. And just so you know, it doesn't have anything to do with HostGator. It can depend on several factors such as your physical location, your internet service provider, things like that. So we're just going to take a break and we'll check back in a bit. All right, after a couple of hours, we can check to see if our WordPress installation is ready to go. So to do that, I'm going to open a new tab, And all you need to do is type in your domain name. So in my case, it's going to be music.quickwebsitecreation.com. Type that in. And once you get something that looks like this, your WordPress website is ready to go. And this is just the new coming soon page that comes with a new HostGator WordPress installation. You might also see something that looks like this. This is the default 2016 theme. So either way, if you see either one of these, your website's ready to go and we can start working on it. So to log into the back end of your WordPress website, which is where all of your changes will be made and where all your new content will be added, you'll type in your domain name. And then at the end of that, you're going to type in /wp-admin. And this is going to take you to your backend login screen. And then your username and password are going to be found right here, the username that you specified and the password that was automatically generated for you. And this is why I highly recommend you save your password in another document so that you are sure to remember that. So I'm going to copy this password and go back and type in my username. And I'll paste in that password. Click on Login. And this is what the WordPress backend looks like. And again, this is where all of your changes will be made. Now, before we get into the more exciting aspects of creating a website, we're going to go over a few WordPress basics. And the first thing I want to do, notice this message showing up here at the top. This is referring to the coming soon page that we saw just a moment ago. Now, some of you may want to actually hide your website while you're working on it, and by leaving this enabled, you can do that. And as long as you're logged into the backend, like we are now, you would actually be able to see the changes that you're making to your website, but anybody else that wasn't logged in would still see that coming soon page. But for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go ahead and deactivate the coming soon page. So I'm going to click here. And now that's taken care of it. And then the next thing I want to do is show you how to change your password. So to do that, you're going to come over here to the left, hover over users, and click on all users. And then you're going to hover over your username and click on edit. And then you would scroll down. Now, in older versions of WordPress, you used to be able to create a password that was anything you wanted. Now, for security reasons, they actually make it to where you have to use an automatically generated password. So you could change your password by clicking on Generate Password, and that would create a new one for you. But you won't be able to come up with your own unique password. This is why, again, I always recommend you save your password so that you are always sure to have that. And if you did need to make a change here, you would click on Update Profile. With WordPress, it's very important that you save every change, otherwise it won't take effect. But I'm going to leave my password as it is. Now, the next thing I want to go over is the admin bar. And this is what is showing up here at the top, and it will only show up on your computer screen when you're logged in. Now, the site title here on the left, the upper left, if I click on that, that's going to actually take me to the front end of my site. And you can see we now have the 2016 theme activated by default. And of course, we're going to change the look and feel of our site completely with the Divi theme here in a moment. But with the admin bar, if I click on the site title again, since I'm on the front end now, it's going to take me back to the back end. So what I like to do is control click if you're using a Mac, or right click with a PC on the site title and click on Open Link in New Tab. And this way I can alternate between the front end and the back end easily, just like that. Now, to log out of the back end of your site, you're going to come over and hover over your username on the right of the admin bar and click on Log Out. And now, just to show you, when we go to the front end of our site, I'll just delete the wp-admin, and I've got just my domain. Notice that we're just seeing the front end of our site. We don't have the admin bar showing up. So I'm going to log back in by typing in my domain /wp-admin, type in my username, and I will copy and paste in the password. Click on Login. All right. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of some of these tabs that we no longer need here. And then real quick, just a few words on what the Divi theme is and why you might want to consider using it. There are thousands of WordPress themes to choose from, and many are free. I have several other videos on my YouTube channel that show you how to use some of these free themes, but for this video, I'm going to use a premium theme called Divi. The Divi theme is a great theme to use if you want to take your website to a new level of professionalism. With Divi, you will have more control over the type of content that appears on any given page, and with most other WordPress themes, you may have functionality options such as having a slideshow or having blurbs with icons, but those options are sometimes only available on your homepage. With Divi, you can utilize every functionality option that you want on any page that you want. You will also have complete control over your layout for each page by having as many rows and columns as you want. You can customize your backgrounds for each section within a page using background colors, images, and even videos. All of these features provide an outlet for further customization and creativity. Also, when you purchase an Elegant Themes membership, you will have complete access to 87 different themes, including Divi, and the membership also includes customer support, so if you do need any assistance, their team is going to be there to help you. And it also includes detailed video instructions for each of the different Divi components, and I'm going to show you how to access those. I do want to point out that I am an affiliate for Elegant Themes, so if you do want to support me and what I'm doing with these video tutorials, you can access the Divi theme through my affiliate link by going to wpsculptor.com/Divi. You can purchase the Elegant Themes membership at no additional cost to you while also supporting me, and I just want to thank you in advance for doing that. It really means a lot to me. So I'm going to come up and open a new tab, and I'll type in wpsculptor.com/Divi. And that's going to take me to the Divi page, and then you can click on this live theme demo to view the actual Divi theme in action and see all the different features. You can also watch this short video about the Divi theme. And then to join Elegant Themes and get the Divi theme, you can click on Join to download. And I do want to point out that you can see here they have over 300,000 customers, and to me that speaks very highly of Elegant Themes. And of course you get access to all 87 themes, including Divi, when you purchase a membership. And then scroll down, and you can see you've got 3 different membership options. The personal plan, I will tell you, that's the plan that I have. So everything that's going to be in this video you can do with the personal plan. And you can see some of the things that are not included with the personal plan. And then the developer plan has access to all the Elegant Themes plugins and layered Photoshop files. So if you're developing websites for clients, you might be interested in those features. And then the lifetime access is the same as the developer plan, except it's just a one-time fee. And I will say that the lifetime access membership would pay for itself when compared to the personal plan in a little over 3.5 years. So if you're going to be developing websites for the foreseeable future, that might be a good option for you. Then we'll scroll down and you can read some of the client testimonials here. And under frequently asked questions, I do want to point your attention to the first one. Can I use themes on multiple websites? And of course, you can use as many themes as you want on as many websites as you want when you have an Elegant Themes membership. And then the refund policy, you do have 30-day money-back guarantee here, and then you can read any of these other questions that you might have. I also want to point out that if you decide to purchase one of the yearly membership options and you decide not to renew your membership after that year is up, then you will still be able to use whatever themes you've ever downloaded from Elegant Themes. You'll be able to use those forever. The only thing is you won't get access to new themes or theme updates, and you won't get access to customer support. So I just wanted to point that out. So what you're going to do is pick your plan, and you would just click on sign up. And once you're signed up, you're going to go and log in. And I'm actually already logged into my membership. And then under the themes tab, to download the Elegant theme, or to download the Divi theme, we're going to scroll down. And under theme downloads, we're going to click on download next to Divi. And you do want to pick the current version, which currently is the 2.5 version. I'm going to click on that. And then you definitely want to be sure to save this file. You don't want to open it, because if you open it, your computer might try to unzip the divi.zip file, and it has to be a zip file for WordPress to be able to read it. So you definitely want to save this file to your computer where you can find it. So I'm going to click on OK. And that's going to download. And then to install the theme to our WordPress site, we're going to go back to our dashboard, or to our WordPress backend here. And we're going to go to Appearance, click on Themes, and then we're going to click on Add New. And then we're going to click on Upload Theme. And right here we can click on Browse to find the file on our computer. And when I just downloaded that, it's saved into this folder here. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm just going to find the divi.zip file, click on Open. And then I'm going to click on Install Now. And then I need to click on Activate to activate the theme. All right, and now when I view the front end of my site here, and remember I can just click on my site title or control click or right click with the PC and open the link in a new tab. And when I refresh the page, you can see that we now have the Divi theme installed, and it's a different look and feel, and of course we're going to be customizing this completely. And real quick, I do want to show you how to access the video tutorials that come with an Elegant Themes membership. And to do that, you would just go to elegantthemes.com, and then you would click on Login and log in with your credentials. That's going to take you to the members area, and then under the Themes tab, we'll scroll down and find the Divi theme here. Just click on Read Me, and then you have all these different Divi basics, and each one of these is going to have a short video tutorial. And all the different modules are going to be found here. And again, each one is going to have a video tutorial. And we're going to be going over many of these different components, but just in case there are some you want to use that we aren't going to cover in this tutorial, you can find video tutorials here. The next thing we're going to do is create our pages, but before we do that, I want to point out a few things. Notice that we are on our front page, which is just our domain name, and it's going to show this sample blog post by default, and this is just the way it is with a brand new WordPress installation. We're going to be able to customize that completely and show whatever page we want on our front page. Also notice that in our navigation menu, we have this sample page here. I'm going to click on that, and this is a sample page that comes with WordPress by default, and we're going to delete this sample page. And then we also have a blog category showing up in our navigation menu. We want to be able to have complete control over our navigation menu, so we're going to create a custom navigation menu. So let's go back to the back end, and actually before I do that, I'm going to click on the logo to be taken back to the front page, which by default again is the posts page. And then we're going to go back to our back end, and we're going to go to Pages and click on All Pages. And you can see we only have our sample page showing up. We're going to delete the sample page by hovering over it and click on Trash. And that's actually not going to delete it permanently. We could go to the trash folder here and delete it permanently from there or restore it, but we're just going to leave it as it is for now. And then to create our pages, we're going to go to Pages and click on Add New. And I'm just going to create our pages now, and we'll add content to our pages later. I want to do this so that we can create our navigation menu. So the first page, I'm just going to give it a title, and I'm going to call it Home. I'll type that in, and then I need to click on Publish. And then I can click on Add New here at the top. And I'm going to create my frequently asked questions page. So I'll type that in and click on Publish. Add New. I'll type in Media, click on Publish. We'll add another page. Type in Our Packages, click on Publish. Click on Add New. And this is going to be my About Us page. I'll type that in, click on Publish. Then click on Add New for our last page, which is going to be our Contact Us page. So I'll type that in and click on Publish. Okay, now when we go to Pages and click on All Pages, we'll see all the pages that we just created. And now that we have our pages created, we can tell WordPress which page we want to show on our home page, our front page. And of course, I want to show the page that we just created called Home on our front page. So to access the front page settings, we're going to go to Settings and click on Reading. And you can see by default, the front page is set to display our latest posts. And again, if we look at the front end of our site, you can see that is the case. We have the sample blog post right here. If we go back to our back end here, I'm going to set the front page to display a static page. So I'm going to select that. And then with that selected, I can choose the front page here from the list, and it's going to show all the pages that I've created. I'm going to select Home. And if I did want to have a blog, we're not going to go over blog features in this tutorial, but if I did want to have a blog, I could go to Pages and Add New and create a page called Blog or whatever else you wanted to call it. And then if I wanted to have a blog, I could select that page from the list here. But I'm just going to leave it on select since I don't want to have a blog for this particular website. And I'm going to click on Save Changes. Now I'm going to view the front end of my site, and we are on the front page. Now when I refresh the page, notice that our front page is now showing our home page. And also notice that the pages we just created are showing up in our navigation menu, and we want to have complete control over which pages show up and in what order. So the next thing we're going to do is create a custom navigation menu. So to create a navigation menu with WordPress, we're going to go back to the back end, and we're going to go to Appearance and click on Menus. And the first thing we need to do is give our menu a title. So I'm going to type in Main Navigation Menu and then click on Create Menu. And then to add our pages to our menu, first of all, click on Screen Options here in the upper right and make sure that you have Pages checked there. And then we'll click on Screen Options to minimize that. And then you should have all of your pages showing up here, or you might have to click on View All. So we're going to check the box next to all of our pages. And we're going to click on Add to Menu. And then we need to scroll down. The next thing we need to do is assign the main navigation menu that we just created to a particular theme location. And different themes will have different theme locations for navigation menus. The Divi theme actually has 3. We're going to assign this menu to our primary menu theme location. And then we're going to click on Save Menu. And let's go ahead and view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, notice that didn't change a whole lot. All it changed was it took off the uncategorized blog category that we had showing up by default. And the reason it didn't change anything else is because all we did was add pages to our menu that were already showing up automatically. So we're going to go back and we're going to rearrange our menu. So to rearrange, all you have to do is click, hold, and drag. So I'm just going to move home up to the top here and release. And then I'm going to move our packages underneath home. And if you indent a menu item like that, that's actually going to create a drop down. We're going to go over that in just a moment. We don't want to do that for now, so I'm going to make sure they're all equally aligned. And then the next thing is going to be About Us. Then I'll add my media page underneath About Us. And then I'll leave those the way they are there. And also, to be able to have complete control over what your menu items actually say, by default, they take on the name of the page. So for our packages, for example, I can click on the arrow here and change that to just say packages by deleting the first word. And for my frequently asked questions page, I want to do the same thing. I'm going to click on the arrow and I'm going to select this and delete it. And I just want it to be FAQ. All right, and now I can scroll down and save the menu. And now when we view the front end of our site and refresh the page, notice that we have a completely different order, and we also have our frequently asked questions and our packages, the title of the menu changed there. Now let's go back to our back end, and I want to show you another thing. You can link to any page anywhere on the internet in your navigation menu. And first of all, go to Screen Options here on the upper right and make sure Custom Links is checked. Then click on Screen Options again. And then you'll have this Custom Links option. You can click on that. And let's say we wanted to create a link in our navigation menu that said Google, and we wanted it to link to the Google homepage. We can open up a new tab and go to google.com. And we would just copy the URL by selecting it there and copying it, go back to our back end, and then for the URL, we would delete what's there and paste in the URL and click on Add to Menu. And also, like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to show you how to create a drop-down menu, and to do that, of course, you would just indent one of your menu items, and this is going to make Packages a drop-down menu when you hover over Home. So just to see what that would look like, I'm going to click on Save Menu. And let's view the front end of our site and refresh the page. So notice we now have this Google menu item showing up, and if I click on that, that's going to take me to Google. And if I go back, when I hover over Home, I now have Packages showing up. But of course, I want to remove what I just did, so I'm going to go back to my back end here, and I'm going to move packages back over, and I'm going to click on the arrow here to remove the Google link by clicking on remove. And then I'm just going to click on save menu. And just to show you, view the front end, refresh the page, and we have it back the way we had it. And the last thing I want to do with navigation menus is show you how to create a menu and assign it to your secondary theme location, which is actually going to be above the header here. And to do that, we're going to go back to the back end and of course go to Appearance, Menus, and we're going to click on Create a New Menu. And I'm going to call this Secondary Navigation Menu and click on Create Menu. And then I'm just going to assign the Contact Us, About Us, and Frequently Asked Questions pages and click on Add to Menu. And then we need to assign it to the secondary menu theme location. Click on Save Menu. And if we view the front end and refresh the page, notice that we now have our secondary menu showing up here. Now, before we start adjusting our theme settings, we need to choose a color scheme. And first, let's examine a couple of our example sites. If we look at Bellhops, notice that they have this green color, and it's the same color as this button here and up here. And then they have this darker green color here. And then in their footer, they have an even darker green. So they're using 3 different green tones to come up with this green monochromatic color scheme. And that's one direction you could choose to go. If we look at Airbnb, notice that it's really very simple. They have a light red color here for this button, and then they have this teal color. So you can see that you really don't need to have just a whole lot of different colors to come up with a professional color scheme look. Now, the other thing I want to point out about both of these sites is their use of neutral colors, and specifically white and gray. And neutral colors are a great way to complement the main colors of your color scheme, because neutral colors will go along with just about any color that you would possibly use. So if we look at Bellhops, so we have this green monochromatic color scheme, but they're also using these neutral colors. So like for the background here, they have a light gray background, and then they have a dark gray background here. And notice that the text needs to be on the opposite end of the brightness spectrum as the background so that it's legible. So we have dark text on a light background here, and then we have light text on a dark background here. And if we look back at Airbnb, notice it's the same thing. We have a white background here with darker text, and then we have a lighter gray background here with also darker text. So you can see how neutral colors can be very effective, and we're going to be using neutral colors periodically throughout the tutorial as we create our website. So for this tutorial, I really wanted to use a green color scheme because I want to have a black header, and I just think that green and black go really well together, and you can see an example of that with the Spotify icon here. And I'm just going to open a new tab and go to Spotify.com. You can see the black header here with the white logo, and then they've got the menu items are white, and then when you hover over them, they're this nice green. So I just really like the look and the feel that that gives off. And you have the same color scheme here, the white, black, and green. And then when we scroll down past these graphics, you can see that they're also using this really nice orange to go along with the green. So for my color scheme, I wanted to find a nice green that I feel would go well on top of a black header. And I also wanted to find another color that goes along with that green. So instead of trying to come up with color schemes on my own, which tends to give me a headache, I like to use a couple of different free resources. And the first one, I'll minimize this window and exit out of these tabs that I don't need. The first free resource is colorlovers.com, and that's spelled C-O-L-O-U-R, lovers.com. And this is a great resource because you can come up with thousands of color schemes that other designers are coming up with. So what I did, I searched for a palette, and I wanted a green color scheme, so I just searched for mint green. So I'm going to type that in, click on search. And then I'll scroll down, and you can see all these different color schemes that you have to look through. And I found one on page 3, scroll down, called Safe to Exhale that I really liked. I really liked this lighter green here, and I really liked this blue. I felt like those would go really well together. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to scroll down, and Each one of these colors in the color palette is going to be represented by what's called a 6-digit hex code. And this hex code is a series of letters and or numbers that correspond to the exact color tone. So we can use these hex codes with the Divi theme to create the color scheme for our website. Now, another wonderful resource I want to show you is a resource called Colorzilla, and you can get it for the Firefox or Chrome browsers. So I'm going to open a new tab and just go to colorzilla.com. And you can click here, and then you can either get it for the Firefox or for the Chrome browser by clicking on Install Colorzilla. And once you have that installed, with the Firefox browser, you're going to get this eyedropper tool here. I can click on that to activate the Colorzilla tool. And now anywhere I put my cursor, it's going to tell me the exact hex code of the color that my cursor is over. So the hex code is going to be right here, where it says pound and then 6 Fs currently. When I hover over this dark green, it's going to give me the hex code for this dark green. So this is an awesome resource you can use to examine the color schemes being used by maybe some brands that you really like, or some sports teams that have color schemes that you really like. Even something as simple as looking up different running shoes and taking a look at some of the colors that make up those running shoes. Those are just great ways to come up with color scheme ideas. And if you do decide to go that direction, you might want to change up the color slightly, and you can do that by clicking on the color, and that's going to copy it to the clipboard. And then what you can do is come over back to the eyedropper, and you can double click it, and that's going to bring up the color picker. And so you have a starting point, which is the exact color that you clicked on. You can click and drag to adjust it here and make slight adjustments, and you can adjust it here, and it's going to give you the updated hex code down here. But I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. And now that we have our color palette selected, we can go back and start making customizations to our theme and choose our own color scheme. So to do that, let's go back to the back end. And to access the Divi customization settings, we're going to go on the left here, hover over Divi and click on Theme Customizer. And that's going to load the theme customizer settings. And what's really neat about this, this is going to be where we make the majority of the changes to our theme settings. And when you make the changes here, usually it will actually be reflected in a preview mode. So you'll be able to see those changes before you actually save them. Now, I do want to point out that not all the changes will show up in the preview mode. So if you are making changes and you don't notice them showing up, then you might need to save the change and go back to your front end, refresh the page, and that way you should see them showing up. And of course, if you aren't happy with the changes, you can always come back here to the theme customization settings and reverse those changes. Now, to change your color scheme, you're going to click on Color Schemes here. And then if we click on Default, you'll see that there are 5 different options, and these are all included with Divi. And the default option is, of course, this blue color scheme that you're seeing in the top bar here. And you could choose to select one of these other options. For example, if I click on the orange option, you'll see the top bar change, and also the footer social media links will change. But of course, we want to use a custom color, and to do that, we're going to select the color scheme, and we're going to select default. And as long as we have the default option selected, even though that's blue, we're going to be able to override the option. So select default, and go ahead and click on Save and Publish. And then we're going to go back, and we're going to click on General Settings, and then click on Layout Settings. And here at the bottom, we have the option to change the theme accent color. And of course, it's going to be this blue by default, but I can click on that. And down here, I could choose any other color that I want for my theme accent color. And what we want to do, since we already have our theme accent color picked out from our color palette, we want to get the hex code. So I'm going to go back to my color palette, and I'm going to select the 6-digit hex code. Make sure you get all 6 digits. And then I'm going to copy that. And I'll go back, and I'm going to select the hex code that's here in place by default, or here in place from what I selected, and be sure to get the pound symbol, and we're going to delete that. And then I'm going to paste in the hex code from my color palette. That's going to update there. And notice, of course, we're not seeing the update take place in the preview, and this is one of those rare exceptions. So we need to click on Save and Publish. And now when we review the front end of our site and refresh the page, notice that we now have that same green from our color palette showing up in our top bar, and also when I hover over my social media links, it's also that green color. We're going to be setting up the rest of our header settings in just a moment, but first I want to go over a few more basic customization settings, and we're going to start with the site title and tagline. If I hover over my browser window here, it's going to reveal the site title, which I did misspell earlier, so we need to fix that. And then the tagline by default is just another WordPress site, and we definitely want to change that to something that's relevant to our site because this is something that search engines are going to be able to read. So to do that, we're going to go back to the back end. And then I'm going to exit out of this just to give you a refresher of how to access these settings. We're going to go to hover over Divi, click on Theme Customizer, click on General Settings, and then click on Site Identity. And here we can select the misspelled musical and replace it. And then I can select the tagline, and I'm going to replace it with music lessons for students of all skill levels. And then we'll be setting up a site icon when we create our logo here in just a moment, but I'm going to go ahead and back out. And I'll go ahead and back out once more so we're at the main customization menu. And the next thing I want to show you is how to set up a boxed layout if that's something you want to do, and you'll see what that means here in just a moment. To do that, click on General Settings again, and we're going to click on Layout Settings this time. And of course, this is where we were when we set up our theme accent color. Now, to enable a box layout, you can check the box here. And what that's going to do, it's going to box in your site, and now we can have a background image or background color showing up on the outer part of our site. So if you have the box layout enabled, you can go back, and now we can click on background, and we can either select an image or we can choose a background color if you wanted to enable the box layout. And just to show you, I'm going to grab the hex code for the blue color from my color palette, copy that. And if I wanted to enable the blue, I could click on the background color where it says select color and then paste in that hex code here. And you can see that it would add that color to the background of my site. Now, I actually don't want to have a box layout. I want to use the full width layout that comes by default with the Divi theme. So what I'm going to do is just clear this, and I'm going to go back and then click on my layout settings again. And I'm going to check the box to disable the box layout. And then these other settings you can play with. By default, I prefer to keep the width at 1080 pixels. I think that's a great width for a website. But you can play with these other settings. And then let's go ahead and save and publish the changes that we made to our site title and tagline. And then we'll just review the front end of our site and refresh the page. And you can see that the site title and tagline is now fixed. All right, now we can start setting up the header, and the first thing I want you to notice, if I scroll up all the way to the top, notice that our header is full size, and when I scroll down, it remains fixed on the page, but it gets a little bit smaller. And this is a completely optional setting, and I want to show you how to access the fixed navigation settings. So to do that, we're going to go back to the back end, and I'll exit out of this to be taken to the main part of the back end. We're going to go to Divi, hover over Divi, and click on Theme Options this time. Alright, real quickly, I just wanted to let you know that with the newest version of the Divi theme, this Divi theme options page has a more modern look, so it looks like this, but all of the options we're going to use are still on the exact same page under Divi theme options, and then under this general tab. Also, this should be the only noticeable difference between this version of Divi and the version you will use, so don't be alarmed by the different look you'll have on your screen. Alright, let's get back to setting up the fixed navigation bar. And don't be overwhelmed by all these options. We're only going to need to play with just a handful of them. Now, under the General Settings tab, which you should be on by default, you have this fixed navigation bar setting, and you can see that it is enabled, and this is the default setting. If we wanted to disable the fixed navigation bar, we could click the box there, and then we need to scroll down all the way to the bottom and save the change. And just to show you, if I look at the front end of my site and scroll up to the top and refresh the page, now when I scroll down, it's not going to remain fixed. But I actually happen to like how it remains fixed on the page, so I'm going to go back and re-enable that. So I'll go back to my back end, and of course under Divi Theme Options, and under the General Settings, I'm going to click the box again to enable that. And then the next thing I want to do is show you how to set up the social media links that, if we look at the front end, the social media links that appear in the footer. And this is, of course, an optional setting. I want to show you how to set those up, and these same social media links can also appear in our top bar if you wish, and we're going to go over that in just a moment. But to set up those social media links, we'll go back to the back end. So under the theme options page, under general settings, we're going to scroll down. And then here you have all 4 options: Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and the RSS. I'm going to disable the Google Plus by clicking the box there, and I'll disable the RSS. And then now to set up the Facebook and Twitter, what we need to do is where it says Facebook profile URL, I need to replace the pound symbol with the URL for my actual Facebook page. So what you would do is open a new tab, and you would go to your actual Facebook page. I'm just going to go to the Facebook homepage, but you would go to your actual social media page, and you would copy the URL. And then you would go back to your back end, and you would select the pound symbol, and you would paste in that URL. And we'll do the same thing for Twitter. You would open your Twitter social media page, and you would copy the URL, and you would select the pound symbol under Twitter and replace it with that URL. And then we're going to scroll down to the bottom and click on Save. And now when we review the front end of our site, and I'll scroll down and refresh the page, notice that we now just have the Facebook and Twitter showing up. And of course, we also have our fixed navigation bar back in place. Now, the next thing I want to do is go over setting up the top bar menu further. And of course, this is where we have our secondary navigation menu right now, but we can also choose to have social media links as well as an email address and a phone number. So to access those settings, we're going to go back to the back end. And I'm going to go to Divi and click on Theme Customizer. And then I'm going to click on Header and Navigation. And I'm going to click on Header Elements. And okay, right now we have, by default, we have the search icon is checked. And this is actually going to be showing up in our main navigation bar. I'm going to go ahead and disable that by checking the box there. And then the social icons, when I check the box, those are going to actually appear in our top bar here. This is another one of those examples where we're not going to see those changes in the preview, but we will when we save and publish. We'll see it in our front end. And then the phone number I'm going to put in. You can see that there. And then an email address. Put that in place. And I do want to point out that the reason we had this top bar showing up before we added our social media icons, phone number, and email is because we had assigned the secondary navigation menu to the secondary menu theme location. If we hadn't done that earlier when we set up our menus, then we wouldn't have this top bar showing up until we activated at least one of these. So I just want to point that out. Now let's go ahead and save and publish, and we'll view this on the front end. I'll refresh the page. All right, so you can see that we now have our phone number, email, and social media links showing up in our top bar. Now, the next thing I want to do is show you how you can customize the background color of your top bar as well as the text color. And to do that, we could go back to our back end, and I'll back out to the main section of our customizer menu. And you can click on Header and Navigation. And this time we can click on Secondary Menu Bar, and this is referring to our top bar. And we're going to go over font options in much more detail here later in the video, but you could adjust the font options specifically for the top bar. And you can also change the background color. Again, by default, it's going to take on the theme accent color, which of course is our green from our color palette. But you could select color there, and you could change that to whatever you want. I'll click on default to change that back. And then the text color, of course, is going to be white by default, but you could select the color and change the text color that way. But I'm going to leave that to white as well. And then you do have the option, if you wanted to include a drop-down menu in your navigation bar for the top bar, then you could adjust these drop-down settings. Now, actually, in my case, I don't want to have a top bar at all. I just wanted to show you how to use all of those different settings because it is a neat feature of the Divi theme. So to disable the top bar entirely, what we need to do, I'm going to go back, and under my main customization menu, I'm going to click on Header and Navigation, and I'm going to click on Header Elements again. And I'm going to go ahead and disable the social icons, and then I'm going to delete the phone number, and I'm going to delete the email address. And now I'm going to click on Save and Publish. And we'll view the front end and refresh the page. So we no longer have those options showing up here, but we still have our top bar, and the reason is because we still have this secondary menu assigned to the secondary menu theme location. So we need to go back and remove that menu. So to do that, we're going to go back to the back end, and I'll exit out of this to be taken to the main part of the back end. And we're going to hover over Appearance and click on Menus. And then where it says Select a Menu to Edit, I'm going to click here and select the secondary navigation menu that I created, and then click on Select. And we could delete this menu, or we can just simply unassign it from the secondary menu theme location. So I'm going to unassign it by checking the box to remove that. So now that that's removed, I can click on Save Menu. And now when I view the front end of my site and refresh the page, notice that we no longer have a top bar. All right, now we can set up the rest of our header. So to do that, let's go back to the back end, and we're going to hover over Divi and of course go to the theme customizer. And then click on header and navigation. And first, let's click on header format. And I just want to show you, you can play with the different header styles by clicking where it says default. And you can play with these other options. I like the default option, so I'm going to leave it on that. You can also use a vertical navigation, which would look something like that. But again, I like to use the default option. And then let's go back one. And of course, under the header and navigation section, we're going to click on primary menu bar. And the primary menu bar is going to refer to the entire main menu here. So the first thing we'll go over is the menu height, and by default it's set at 66, and me personally, I think that's a good height for the menu, so I'm going to leave it set to that. I'll also leave the logo max height set the way it is. And for the text size, we'll come back to that in a moment. The font, I'm going to go ahead and select a new font for my main menu, and I'll just click on default, and you can browse through all these different fonts, and we're going to discuss fonts in more detail later in the video when we set up our typography settings. But for now, I'm going to choose a font called Lado. I just think it's a really neat modern looking font, so I'll select that. And now that I have my font selected, I'm going to bump the text size up to 15, so I'll just click here and press delete and type in a 5, or do that again, type in a 5. There we go. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I'll come back to the text color here in just a moment when we set up our background color. But I do want to point out now something interesting. The active link color, which is currently, since we're on the home page, our active link is the home link. It is set to be the green from our theme accent color, the same green that's in our color palette, but it's actually still showing up as blue. And if we look at the front end, it's the same thing. And this is just a weird quirk that I've noticed. What you need to do to get your active link color set properly, click on Select Color, and then all we need to do is change it. And then now we're going to go back and change it to the green. So I'm going to go to my color palette, and I'll copy the hex code, get all 6 digits, go back, and I'll select everything in there that's there, including the pound symbol, press delete, and paste in that hex code. And now we have that set properly. So that's just something I wanted to point out there. And then let's scroll down, and the background color is going to refer to the background for my entire header here. And by default, it's set to white. I'm going to change that by clicking on Select Color. And I want my background color to be black, so I'm going to choose black here. And that's going to fill in the hex code for black, which is 6 zeros. But here's something that's really, really interesting about the Divi theme, and really a wonderful feature to use. You can actually have a transparent header. And once you select your color, you have this transparency slider here. So I can make it very transparent by dragging this way down, and you can see how that changes. But I just want it to be a very subtle transparency, so I'm going to bump it up here to 0.9. So I'll just select the 3.7, delete that, type in 0.9, and that's going to set it that way. And that way, when I add more content later and scroll down, you'll actually be able to see that content underneath the menu. It'll be very subtle, but I just think it's a really neat effect. So you can certainly play with that, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. And now that I have my background color selected, you can see that we can't see the other menu items because the text color is too dark. So I'm going to come back up and click on Select Color underneath Text Color. And I want my text to be white, so I'm going to select that option. And I don't want there to be any transparency, so I'm going to click and hold and drag that slider all the way up, just like that. And when we save and publish, our active link color will go back to being green. So then let's scroll down, and even though we don't have a drop-down menu currently, I do want to point out if you do have a drop-down menu, you can adjust your drop-down menu settings here, and we're going to go ahead and do that because we will be adding a drop-down later. So for my drop-down menu background color, I'm going to click on Select Color and make that the same as my main header. So it's going to be black, and then I'm going to drag the slider down just a little bit to 0.9. Right there. And then I'm going to leave my drop-down menu line color set to my theme accent color. And then the text color, I'm going to click on Select Color and make that white with no transparency. So I'm going to drag the transparency slider all the way up. And I'll leave the menu animation set to fade. And let's go ahead and click on Save and Publish. And view the front end of our site. And refresh the page. We'll scroll up and notice we now have our black header with a mild transparency that you probably can't tell that it's transparent, but we'll be able to see that later on. And then we have our white menu text and our green active link color. Now I do want to point out a couple of things about the fixed navigation bar. When I scroll down, you can see that our fixed navigation bar did take on the same background color that we just set up for our primary header, and it also took on the same link color and the same menu item color, but it is still considerably smaller than our actual header. And to adjust that and make the size the same when I scroll down, I don't want the fixed navigation bar to be any smaller. I can go back to the back end. And first of all, I'm going to exit out and just give you a quick refresher. You do need to have the fixed navigation bar enabled, and to do that, you would go to Divi, click on Theme Options, and that's going to take you to this page. And make sure you have the General Settings tab selected, and you would just simply make sure that this is enabled here under Fixed Navigation Bar. Mine already is, of course, and if you need to make a change, you would scroll down and save that change. And then as long as you have the Fixed Navigation Bar enabled, you can go back to Divi, Theme Customizer, and click on Header and Navigation, and you'll have this Fixed Navigation Settings option. Click on that, and by default, it should take on the same primary menu background color as we just set up for our main menu here, and it should take on the active link color, the same active link color, and the same primary menu link text color. Now, we do need to make it bigger. If you notice currently when I scroll down, it's still smaller, and that's because the fixed menu height is set at 40. If I go back and look at my primary menu bar height setting, it's actually at 66, so I need to make the other 66 as well. So I'll go back, click on Fixed Navigation Settings, and change this to 66. And now it's going to be the same size when I scroll down. And of course, you could change the primary menu background color or text color or link colors if you wanted to do that, but I want to keep it the same so that my menu looks the same whether I'm scrolling down or not. So I'm going to click on Save and Publish. And I'll view the front end of my site, refresh the page. And now my fixed navigation bar is the same height as my primary menu bar. The next thing we're going to do is create a custom logo and replace the default Divi logo with our custom logo. So to do that, I'm going to exit out of this tab we no longer need here and open a new tab. And I highly recommend using a free resource called PicMonkey. So I'm going to type in picmonkey.com and then hover over Design and then come down and choose this custom option. And I'm going to make it 500 by 500 pixels, so I type that in. And this is going to give us plenty of space to work with. Click on Make It. And then I want to go ahead and make my background black for now. It's actually going to be a transparency when we finish up here, but I want to make it black for now so that we can see the white text that we're going to use to create our logo. So to do that, come over here to the left and hover over this Basic Edits icon. And I'm going to click on the cursor here, or the slider rather, and click, hold, and drag that all the way over to where it's black. Click on Apply. And then to add our text, I'm going to come over and click on this text icon and then click on Add Text. That's going to create a text box over our canvas. I can click, hold, and drag that text box up here to the upper left. And then I want to click inside the text box. And now I can type, and I'm just going to type in the letter M. And then I want to select the M. And then I'm going to, first of all, make that white. So I'm going to click over here and drag that up all the way to where it's white. And you should have 6 Fs. That's going to represent the white hex code. And then I want to change the size. I want to bump this up by selecting the 31, and I'm going to type in 64, press enter. And then I want to come over here on the left with that still selected, and I'm going to choose a different font. I am actually going to go with the Lato font, and I'm going to click on that to select it. And just so you know, you don't necessarily have to use the same font for your logo that you're using on your website. It just so happens in my case, I really like the Lato font, so that's the direction I'm going to go. Now, the next thing I want to do is click outside of the text box, and now I can click, hold, and drag to resize that. And I don't want to make it too small. I definitely want to keep the entire letter there. And now I'm going to click on Add Text to add another text box. Click, hold, and drag that up. And release, and click to type. I'll type the rest of the word musical. And then I can select the text, and I do want to make it white. And I want to select the size, and this time I want to make it size 40, so I'll type in 40, press enter. And then I can click outside of the text box, and by the way, it is retaining the same Lato font, so I don't need to change that again. And now I want to click outside of the text box and click, hold, and drag that not too far, but right about there. And then I can click outside of the text box and have a pretty good look at it. And it looks like I want to move the smaller part of musical up a little bit, so I can select it and use the arrows on my keyboard to fine-tune the spacing. Click out, that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to click on Add Text again. Click, hold, and drag that up, and I'm going to click within the text box and type in letter A, capital letter A, and I'll select the text, make it white here, select the 31 font, type in 64, press enter. And then I can select outside of the text box, and it looks like I need to drag that down a little bit. So with that selected, I can use the arrows to bump that down a bit. That looks pretty good. And then I can click, hold, and drag to resize that. All right. Then I'll click on Add Text again. Click, hold, drag that up. And I'll click and type in the rest of the word acquisition. All right, and then I'll click and hold and drag that over so it's not my way. I want to make the text white. Looks like I need to select the text first, then I can make it white. And I'll resize it, select the 31, change that to 40, press enter. And click outside of the text box and then click to resize that. All right, and now I can use the arrows again to fine-tune the small part of acquisition. Click out and take a look. That looks pretty good. I think that'll work. And then the next thing I want to do is add a couple of lines underneath the small text for musical and the small text for acquisition. I just think that's a neat effect. So to do that, I'm going to come over to the left and click on this butterfly icon. And then I'm going to click on geometric. And then I'm going to click on this rectangular option. And then I want to change the color of my rectangle, so I can click on the black here next to color 2. And I want to come over and select the white box. I'll do that. And then now I can click, hold, and drag on the lower edge and move that all the way up and make the width as small as it'll go. And now I can click, hold, and drag my line and place it where I want it here and release. And then I can click out here to take a look. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to do that one more time for the acquisition word by coming over here and clicking on the rectangle again. And then click on the color, and we're going to make it white. And then I can click the bottom part here, drag that as small as it'll go, and then I can click on the line, and you definitely have to get this icon that you see now. If it's like that, that's the resize icon. So you kind of have to fine-tune your cursor just like that. Click, hold, and drag. And I'll bump that up there, and then I can click on the end here. Hold and drag to resize that a bit. Let go, click out. All right, that looks pretty good. It looks like I need to bump my line up just a little bit, so I'll select it, and I'll use the up arrow on my keyboard. All right. I want to go up just a little bit more. I'll select it, go up, and then I need to bump my small text up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and bump up the small text in musical just a little bit. I'll click on it, bump that up. All right, that looks pretty good. So the next thing I want to do is crop my logo. And to do that, I'm going to come over here and select or click on the basic edits icon and then click on crop. That's going to bring up the crop box, and I can click, hold, and drag to position this. And then I can click on one of the corners, click, hold, and drag, and resize the crop box. And make sure you don't cut any parts of your logo off, but we do want to get it pretty close. All right. Then I can come over and click on apply. And then the last thing I want to do before saving the logo is make the canvas color transparent. And right now, of course, it's black, but I want to make it transparent so that my logo takes on whatever background I have on my website. And of course, in our case, with the header, it's actually a black, but it's got a light transparency to it. So we definitely want our logo to look good on that black transparent header. So to do that, let's come over and again, make sure you have the basic edits icon clicked on, and then click on canvas color. And then check the box next to transparent canvas and click on apply. And then we're going to come up and click on save and give it a title. And make sure you have PNG selected here, otherwise it won't save as transparency. And then click on save to my computer. And just save that somewhere where you can find it. I'll just save it to my desktop. Click on save. And then to add the logo to our site, we're going to come back to the back end, and I'll exit out of this to be taken to the main part of the back end. And you're going to come over, hover over Divi, click on theme options, and that's going to put you on this page here. And make sure you have the general settings tab selected, and the logo option should be the first option. Go ahead and click on upload image. And then we're going to come over to upload files, click on select files, and we'll find this file on our desktop, select it and click on open. And then click on set as logo. Then we'll scroll down all the way to the bottom and click on save. Now when we view the front end of our site and refresh the page, notice that we now have our logo showing up. And of course, we can scroll down and our entire navigation menu is staying fixed on the page. The next thing I want to do is create a favicon, and a favicon is just an icon you can make to represent your website. And if we look at the Color Lovers favicon, it's going to show up here in the browser. It's this heart icon, and PicMonkey has this monkey icon. So we're going to create a very simple favicon. First, I'm going to go back to the back end, and the way we add our favicon to our site after we create it, we're going to go to Divi Theme Customizer, and click on General Settings, and click on Site Identity. And I just want to point out that it says here our site icon needs to be 512 pixels wide and tall. So we're going to open up a new PicMonkey window. I'll exit out of the one I don't need and open a new one. Go back to picmonkey.com. Then hover over Design and come down and click on Custom. And then we need to make this 512 by 512. So I'll type that in. Click on Make It. And then I want my background color to be the green from my color palette. So I'm going to get the hex code from my color palette. Copy that. And then under Canvas Color, make sure you have the basic edits icon clicked on. And then next to Canvas Color, or underneath Canvas Color, we're going to select the hex code in place, delete that, and then paste in our own hex code, and then press Enter. And then click on Apply. And then to add our text, we're going to click on the text icon and click on Add Text to create our text box. And then I can click inside the text, and I'm going to type in capital M and capital A. And then I'll select the text, and I'm going to make it white by dragging the color slider all the way up. And I also want to change the size. I want it to be much bigger, so I'm going to select the 32 and type in 325 and press enter. And then I want to change the font to the Lato font. So I'm going to click on the Lato font here on the left, and of course you can browse through all these different fonts. I'll click Lato. And I want to make it bolder so that the text stands out because the icon is going to be so small. So I'm going to click on the bold there, and then I need to click outside of my text box. And now I can click the edge, hold, and make the text box wider so that it moves it to one line. Then I'll click, hold, and drag to center that. I'm going to move it up just a little bit. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to click on Save. And I'm just going to type in MA Favicon and click on Save to my computer. And saving it as a JPEG is just fine. Then I'm going to click on Save. And then to add the Favicon to our website, we're going to go back to the back end. And of course, under our Customizer menu, we're going to click on General Settings, Site Identity, and then click on Select Image. Then we're going to click on Upload Files, select files, and it's this MA Favicon. I'm going to select that and click on Open. And then click on Save. And then we need to click on Save and Publish. And you can see our Favicon is already showing up here, and when I view the front end of my site and refresh the page, we now have our Favicon showing up there as well. All right, now we get to finally start adding content to our pages, and we're going to start with the About Us page. So I'm going to click on About Us in the menu. That's going to open it up here, and just like with all of our other pages, notice that by default we have basically a two-column layout. We have this big content column here that's blank, and then we have this widget area column. And we'll be discussing widgets and widget areas in more detail later in the video, but for our pages, we're going to be using the Divi builder, and that's going to allow us to have whatever layout we want for any given page. So we can have as many different rows and as many different columns as we want to have. Now, to access the Divi builder, we're going to go back to the back end, and I'll exit out of this to be taken to the main part of the back end. And we need to go to Pages and click on All Pages. And this is going to pull up the list of all the pages that we created earlier in the video. And since I want to edit the About Us page, I'm going to click on About Us. And by default, we are using the visual editor that you see here. We need to switch to the Divi builders by clicking on Use the Divi builder. And that's going to pull up the Divi builder here, and you might need to click on this arrow to bring down the options. And by default, we have this blue area, which represents a standard section. And then within this standard section, we have this green area, which represents a row. And then within this row, we can click on Insert Columns, and we can choose as many columns as we want. And let's just say, for example, we wanted to have a two-column row where one of our columns was 2/3 and one of the columns was 1/3. We can click that option, and then we can add modules to each one of these columns. And modules are fantastic because they basically enable you to add all kinds of different content and functionality to your pages. And of course, modules are unique to the Divi theme. So if we wanted to add a module to our first column here, we could click on Insert Modules, and then we could select any one of these modules, and I'll just select the blurb for now. And then I can fill out all the module options and adjust the settings. And once I was satisfied, I could click on Save and Exit, and that would add that module to the column. Now, of course, I don't want to use this blurb module right now, so I'm going to click on the X here to remove that. And I actually don't want to use this row at all, so I'm going to click on the X here to remove this entire row. And then I want to add a row that just has one column. So I'm going to click on Insert Columns, and then I'm going to select the one column layout option. And then for this first column, I want to have my page title. And since we are using the Divi builder, we do need to include our page title. If we weren't using the Divi builder, as you saw earlier on our front end, our page title would show up automatically. But with the Divi builder, we do need to add that. So I'm going to click on Insert Module. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to select the text module, since the only thing included in this module I need is text. So I'll click Text. And I want the text color to be dark, and the reason I want it to be dark is because by default my background color is going to be white, and we're going to be discussing background colors and background images that you can have and change for any section on your site. We're going to be discussing that in detail when we create our homepage. We'll also be going over how to use video backgrounds as well. But for now, I just want to use dark text, and then for the text orientation, I want my title to be centered, so I'm going to select that option. And then I'll scroll down and I'm going to type in the title here, which is just going to be About Us. Type that in. And now I'm going to click on Save and Exit. And I do want to point out that even though I clicked on Save and Exit, it's not actually going to save the changes that we're making here to our front end until we click on this Update button. And this can come in handy if you make a bunch of changes or you accidentally delete something that you don't want. Then as long as you don't click on Update, you can back out of this page editor page and then reopen it, and it will revert back to what you had last time you clicked on the Update button. But we do want to make this change permanent, so I'm going to click on Update. And now when we view the front end of our site, we should see our centered title. Just like that. And of course, the reason this is showing up here, this is actually our footer, and since we don't have hardly any content, our footer is coming all the way up here, but as soon as we add more content, our footer will go back down to where it's supposed to be. In just a moment, we'll come back and customize the About Us text here, but first I want to add more content to our About page. So to do that, let's go back to the back end. And of course, we are on the page editor screen for the About Us page. And what I want to do is insert another row underneath our page title. So I'm going to click on Add Row. And I want this to be a 2-column row with a 1/3, 2/3 layout. So I'm going to select that option and click on it. And then in this first column, I want to include 2 different images. And before I add those images, I want to show you a wonderful free resource I use to get high quality stock photos. And I'm going to come up here and exit out of this tab I don't need. And then I'll open a new tab and go to pixabay.com. And what's awesome about Pixabay is that even though these images are incredibly high quality, you can use them freely on your site and you don't even have to leave an attribution to the creator of the image. So what I do here is type in a keyword. So I'll type in music, and then I'm going to leave all images set to all images, and then click on the search icon. And this is going to pull up all these images that you can use freely on your site. And of course, I do want to point out this top row, of course, is sponsored images, so these are not going to be free. But all the other images that you see are free to use. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to go to page 5. I'll type in 5 and press enter. So you'll find an image that you want to use, this one for example, and I'll click on it. And then you can click on free download here on the right, and you have different size options. I almost always go with the medium option just because 1280 pixels wide is usually plenty big enough for me and most of my needs. And you can always shrink images without losing quality, but you can't increase the size of an image without losing quality. So that's just a quick tip there for you. Now, occasionally, if I'm going to use an image for a site background and I want it to be really big, then I will download the original image option here. And if you do download the bigger image, you will need to sign up for a free account, and then you can log in and download that. But what you would do is select the size option and then click on download. And you might need to put in a CAPTCHA, and then you would just click on download. And then I recommend saving the file to somewhere on your computer where you can find it. So I've actually already got all of my images saved and downloaded and renamed on my computer. So what I'm going to do is go back to the back end, and we're on the page editor here. And to insert an image into this column, I'm going to click on Insert Module. And then I'm going to find the image module here and click on that. And then what I need to do is click on Upload an Image. And I want to click on Upload Files since I'm going to upload this image from my hard drive. So I'll click on Select Files. And then I'll find the file, the image on my computer, and I've got it in a folder here. I'm going to select this image here and click on Open, and you can see, by the way, it's the 1280 pixel size option. I'm going to click on Open, and then I'm going to click on Set as Image. And then we need to scroll down and fill out a few more of these image options. First of all, I want to point out that you can choose to open the image in a lightbox by turning this on. And what that would do, it would make your image clickable on the front end of your site, and you could click on it and it would open up bigger in the center of your screen. And I don't want to do that. We're going to do that when we create our image gallery, but I don't want that for now. You could also choose to make your image a clickable link to another website. So for example, if I wanted it to link to google.com, I could go to Google, and then I could copy the URL and come back and paste that in. And you also have this animation option, and I like to turn this off, but you can play with that. So I'm going to select no animation. And then I'm going to leave the alignment left, and then we're going to come down and click on Save and Exit. And I'm going to go ahead and update the page. And remember, we did link to Google. So I just want to show you what that would look like if we go to the front end and refresh. You're going to see our image, and when I hover over it, I can click on it and be taken to Google. But we're going to go back, and of course we'll go back to the editor, and I'm going to click on this icon. This is going to pull up those module settings again, the 3 lines here. So I can click on that. Then I'll scroll down, and I'm going to remove the link by selecting it and deleting it. And then I'll click on Save, and that way there won't be any link associated with the image. And then to add another image below this one, I'm going to click on Insert Modules. I'll click on the image module again, and this time I'm going to click on Upload an Image and find the other image. I'll click on Upload Files here. Click on Select Files, and it's going to be this other image I have. I'll click on Open. That's going to upload it, and then I can click on Set as Image, and I'll scroll down, and I don't want it to open in a lightbox, and I also don't want any animation, so I'll change that to no animation, and then I'll scroll down and click on Save and Exit, and then if I update the page and view the front end of my site and refresh the page, you'll see that we now have both of our images showing up. Next, I want to add the written text or the written content to the larger column. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the back end, and I'm going to click on Insert Modules here, and I'll scroll down, and I'm just going to use a text module. So I'll click on the text module, and then I'm going to open up, I've got all my text already typed out. And for my About page, I want 2 paragraphs. So I'm going to select the text that I have here. I'll copy that, and I'm just going to come down. First of all, I want dark text, and this time instead of centering the text like we did with our page title, I want it to be left, so I'll keep left selected. Then I'll scroll down, and I'll click here and paste in the text that I just copied, and that's going to put it in paragraph form. And then to create a link, you can make any text a clickable link to another page. I'm going to do that with the word WordPress. So I'll select WordPress, and I want it to link to wordpress.org. So with that selected, I can click on this chain link icon here. And then I'm going to open up a new tab here and just go to wordpress.org. And now I can copy the URL by selecting it here, copy that, come back and paste it in, and then click on Add Link. And of course, to remove the URL, once you've set it, you can always select the same word and click on this Remove Link chain link icon. But I want to leave that as it is, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Save and Exit, and click on Update, and view the front end of my site and refresh the page. So you can see we now have our 2 paragraphs. And then the next thing I want to do is add a bullet list, or actually some bold text, and then a bullet list below this. And then we'll come back and we're going to make this text larger, and we're going to make this About Us text different. So let's go back to the page editor, and I can still use the same text module. So I'm going to click on the edit icon here, and then I'll come down and I'll scroll down within my content section and click at the very end of the text and then press enter. And then I'm going to copy some more text. I want this text to appear on its own line, so I'll copy that and paste that in. And I want this text to be bold, so I'm going to select it. And then I can click on this bold icon. And then I'll click here and press enter again. And the last thing I want to do is insert a bullet list. So I'm going to go back and I've got all these things typed out. I'm going to copy them and paste them in here. And to make them a bullet list, I just need to select them. And then I can click on this bullet list icon. And that makes them a list. And that actually made them one list. So it looks like what I need to do is put these in one at a time. So I'll do that real quickly here. I'll delete them first. Press enter. And now I can select all of these. And with those selected, I can click on the bullet list icon. And now they're going to all be a list. And then I'm going to click on Save and Exit. And then I'm going to click on Update to save these changes. And now when I view the front end of my site and refresh the page, you'll see that we now have all of our text in place. And just to show you, we can click on WordPress to be taken to wordpress.org. Just like that. Now that we have some text added to our site, we can set up our font settings. So to do that, let's go back to the back end and come down, hover over Divi and click on Theme Customizer. And then click on General Settings and then click on Typography. And then I want to come over here in the preview and open my About page. That way I can see the text that we just added. And then over here on the left, if we scroll down, the body font is going to refer to the font for the vast majority of text on your website. So to change that, I can click where it says default, and you have all these different options. You can have fun looking through and experimenting with each one of these. I will say that I definitely recommend using a very legible font for your body font and something that's just really easy on the eyes. So I found the Lato font, and I really like that. So I'm going to select the Lato font. And then I felt like this was pretty small, so I wanted to bump up the body font size. So I'm going to come up here, and where it says body text size, it's currently at 14. I'm going to select that and type in 16. And I think I like that much better. And then notice that when we added our WordPress link here, it was the same green that we're using as our theme accent color. And if you wanted to change that, you could do that here where it says body link color. But I definitely want to leave that to the theme accent color, the green there. Now, the header font, this is not actually referring to our header up here. This is referring to some of the text used by other modules, such as the call to action module, the accordion module, and the blurb module. And I'll point that out when we go over those modules. But I will say that you can definitely use a different font for your header than you're using for your body font. But I'm going to actually use the same Lato font, so I'll select that. And we won't see anything change now, but we'll see that later. You can also change your text color, and if we scroll down here on the left, you can see the body and header text color is this gray. If you wanted to change that, you could click on Select Color, and let's say we wanted it to be black, we could click on black, or you could paste in whatever hex code you had, or just choose a color randomly. But I really like the default, so I'm going to leave it to that. I just think this gray is even more welcoming than just a straight black. So I'm going to leave it at that. But let's go ahead and click on Save and Publish. And then view the front end of our site and refresh the page. And now we have our font changed. Now the last thing I want to do on the About page is customize the text for the About Us page title. And this is just one of the many amazing features of the Divi theme. You can customize every little section of your site. So we're going to do that by going back to the back end. And of course we need to be on the page editor screen, and we got here by going to Pages, All Pages, and then we clicked on the About Us page. And I'm going to hover over the module settings icon and click on that, and of course the module settings icon for the text module I want to edit. And this is the About Us text module. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to the Advanced Design Settings tab by clicking on that. And you have all these different options. We're going to change the text font. Now, since we just changed in the typography settings, we changed our font to be the Lato font. Our default font is now the Lato font, but I want to click where it says default, and I'm going to find the Lato Light font. I'm going to switch to that, and then I'm going to bump the text font size up considerably. So I'm going to select 14 and type in 55. And then for the text color, I actually want it to be the same color that is my green accent color. So I'm going to go back and get the hex code for that from my color palette. I'll copy that. and then I'll come back and click on Choose Custom Color and click on Select Color, and then I can paste it in here. And then I can click on Save and Exit, and then click on Update to save these changes. And now when I view the front end of my website and refresh the page, you can see we now have our new page title in place. The next thing we're going to do is set up our media page. So I'm going to go ahead and click on our media page, view that in the front end. So let's go back to the back end, and we're going to go to Pages, click on All Pages. And then I'm going to click on Media to open up the media page in the page editor. And then I need to click on Use the Divi Builder to switch over to that. And the first thing I want to do is, we've got this row by default. I want to click on Insert Columns and insert a 1-column row. So I'll select that option and then click on Insert Modules. And I want to use a text module and just add our media page title. So I'll click on Text. And I'll leave the text color set to dark. That's fine since we're going to customize this. And then for orientation, I want this to be centered, and then I'll type in media here in the content area. And then I'll switch over to the advanced design settings and do the exact same thing we just did to our about page, our page title for the about page. The text font, I want to be Lato Light. Select that. I want the size to be 55. And I want the color to be the same color from our color palette. So copy that hex code and we'll paste it in, save and exit. And let's go ahead and update that, and we'll take a look at our front end real quick. Refresh the page. All right, the next thing we're going to do is add our image gallery below the page title. So let's go back. And since I want the image gallery to be on one column and take up a whole column, I don't need to add a new row. I can just use the same 1-column row that we already have. So I'm going to click on Insert Modules, and then I'm going to find the gallery module here and click on that. And then to add the images to the gallery, I'm going to click on Update Gallery, and then click on Upload Files and select Files. And then we're going to find the images on our computer where we have them saved, and I've got them in this folder. So I'm going to click on the top one, hold Shift on my keyboard and click on the last one. That's going to select all of them, and then click on Open. And then after all of those upload, they should be checked automatically. We're going to click on Add to Gallery. And then here you do have the option to add a caption, but we're not going to be using captions. And also you can rearrange the images by click holding and dragging and releasing, for example, like that. But we're going to leave them as they are and just click on Update Gallery. And then the next option, this layout option, you have the slider option or the grid option. I like to use the grid option, so I'm going to select that. And then for image number, you have the option to choose how many images show up on each page. And I'm going to leave this set to 4 for now, so 4 images will show per page. And then we'll come back and adjust this here in a moment. I actually want to turn title and caption off. So I'll do that. And then since we're only showing 4 out of the 8 images that we added to our gallery, we do need to have pagination kept on. And then for text color, we'll leave that to dark. And let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And then click on Update to save these changes. And we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. And notice we have the first 4 images of our gallery showing up, and I can click on the pagination, the 2, to view the last 4. And also, if we go back, you can click on any of these images, and it's going to open up in this nice lightbox effect. And from here, we can scroll through and see all the different images in the gallery. And to exit out, we can just click on the X or click out. All right, let's go back, and I'm going to turn the option to where it was 4 pages or 4 images per page back to 8. And to do that, we're going to hover over the module settings icon here for the gallery module. Click on that. And instead of images number being 4, I'm going to change that to 8. And then click on Save and Exit, Update, view the front end and refresh. All right, and then the next thing we're going to do is add a YouTube video below our image gallery. So to do that, I'm going to close out of these tabs that I no longer need and open a new tab and go to youtube.com. And then you're just going to find the video that you want to put on your website, and I'll just search for shred guitar. I'll scroll down and I want to use this video, so I'm going to click on that and then I'll just pause. And then I need to copy the URL and make sure you get every character. So we'll copy that and come back to the back end, and we're on the page editor for our media page. And I want to add this video, and I want it to take up one entire column, and I want it to be under the gallery. So I can click on Insert Module, and then I'll scroll down and find the video module. I'll click on Video. And then all I have to do is paste in the URL right here, and then click on Save and Exit, and click on Update. And now let's view the front end of our site and refresh the page. Now you can see we have our YouTube videos showing up underneath the gallery. And of course you could click play and actually watch this video on the website. Now let's go back to the back end real quick. And I just want to point out that you can rearrange any of your modules, and all you have to do is click, hold, and drag. And if I wanted my video module to be before my gallery, I could click, hold, and drag and move that up here and release that. And if I update and view the front end, refresh the page, you can see that change take effect, but I'll just leave it the way that it was. I just wanted to show you how to do that. So we'll move it back and update and refresh the page. All right. The next thing we're going to do is add content to our frequently asked questions page. So I'm going to click on that in the menu to open that up. And then we'll go back to the back end and go to Pages, click on All Pages, and then click on Frequently Asked Questions to open that up in the page editor. And then we'll click on Use the Divi Builder. And the first thing I want to do is click on Insert Columns, and I just want to create a one column row, so I'll click on the one column option, and then click on Insert Modules, and of course we'll add our page title first with a text module. I'll click on the text module, and this is going to be Frequently Asked Questions. Type that in there. And then I do want to center the text, and then we'll click on Advanced Design Settings. We'll change the font. Change the font size, and then we're going to change the font color. Grab the green from our color palette and paste that in here. All right, and then the next thing we're going to do is use an accordion module, and this is just a neat way to display the frequently asked questions so that only one question and answer will be shown at a time, but they'll be able to see all the different questions, and then they can click on each question to see the answer. So to use the module, we're going to click on Insert Module to add the accordion module right underneath our text module in one column. And then we'll find the accordion here at the top, click on that. And then we're going to click on Add New Item. And then the title is where we're going to put the question, and the content section is where we're going to put the answer. So I'm going to get the questions and answers that I've already got typed out here. I'll copy them one at a time. Paste that in, and then for the answer, copy that and paste it in. And then I need to click on Save, and then I'll click on Add New Item, and I'll get the question and answer for my second question. Paste that in. Select the answer, copy and paste that. Click on Save, and then we'll repeat this 2 more times. Add New Item. Copy that, and we'll copy the answer here. Paste that in, click Save. One more, Add New Item. Copy and paste that in. And then our last answer, we'll copy and paste that in. Then click Save. And then click on Save and Exit, and then we'll click on Update to save these changes permanently. And then we'll go view the front end of our site, and we're going to refresh the page. All right, now we have our frequently asked questions in place with our accordion module, and I can click on these just like that. And one thing I do want to do, I want to make this accordion module icon green. I just think that'll stand out a little more. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the back end. and I'm going to click on the settings button here for the accordion module. And then I'm going to click on advanced design settings. And then next to icon color, I'm going to click on choose icon or choose custom color, and then I can click on select color, and then I'll get the hex code for the green, copy, and I'll paste that in, and then click on save and exit and click on update and view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, now our icon is green. Next, we're going to set up our contact page, so I'll open that up in the front end. And then we'll go back to the back end, and I'll go to Pages and click on All Pages. And I'll click on the Contact Us page to open that up in the page editor. And then I'm going to click on Use the Divi Builder. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is make this row a one-column row and add our page title. I'll click on Insert Columns, select the one-column option. Then click on Insert Modules, and of course, we're going to follow the exact same steps we've done for all of our pages. Click on the text module, and I want this text to be centered, and it's going to say Contact Us. Then I'll switch over to the Advanced Design Settings, and I'm going to come down and make the font the Lato Light font. Click on that, and then the size I'm going to make 55. And then the color, of course, I'm going to click Select Color and choose the green from our color palette. Copy the hex code. Paste that in, click on Save and Exit, and we'll update the page. View the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, now let's go back to the back end. And the next thing I want to do is insert a two-column row. And in one of the columns, I want to have a contact form. And in the other column, I want to have some text with our address and phone number. So to do that, I'm going to click on Add Row. And I'm going to choose this 2/3, 1/3 two-column option. And then to add our contact form to the first column, I'm going to click on Insert Module. And then I'm going to find the contact form module and click on that. And then we have some options. I am going to choose to leave the CAPTCHA option on. I think this is a great thing to use because it can help reduce spam contact form submissions. So we'll leave that on. And then for email, this is where you put the email address where you want these contact form submissions to be sent to. So you would just put whatever email address, and I'll just do email@gmail.com. And I do want to point out that you might need to check your spam folder. Sometimes these contact form submissions will go to your spam folder, so just be aware of that. And then for the title of my contact form, I'm going to copy and paste some text that I have. Copy that. And I'll paste this in, and this will appear above the contact form. And we can go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And then the next thing I want to do is add our phone number and address to the right of our contact form. So I'm going to click on Insert Modules here, and I'll scroll down and choose a text module. And then I'm going to copy and paste some text that I have. Copy, and we'll come down and paste this into the content area. And for our address, I want to select that and make that bold. So I'll select that and click on the bold icon, and I'll do the same with the phone number. Click the bold icon. And then we'll scroll up, and I'm going to leave the text orientation set to the left. And since our background color by default is white, I'm going to leave the text color set to dark. Let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And now we'll click on Update to save these changes. And then we'll view the front end and refresh the page. All right, now we have the contact form, and your users could fill this out and click on the Submit button, and that would send a copy of this contact form to the email address you put in into your contact form module. And then we have the CAPTCHA to help prevent spam, and then here we have our address and our phone number. The next thing I want to do is add a Google map underneath our contact form and our text here. And what I could do is go back to the back end, and I could scroll down and add another row. And then I could choose this one column option, and then I could click on Insert Module, and then I could click on the Map module. But what would happen if I did that, if we view the front end, my map would only span from about here to about here. If I wanted to use a full width map that spanned the entire width of my browser, I can do that by going back to the back end, and we'll exit out of this, and we'll go ahead and delete this row. I could do that by using a full width section. So if I click on full width section, that's going to give me access to the full width modules. And if I click on Insert Modules, you can see all the full width modules included with the Divi theme. And I don't use full width modules very often, but I just wanted to show you how this works. So we're going to use a full width map module. So we'll click on the full width map. And the first thing we need to do is type in a center address for our map. And I'm just going to type in Denver, CO, and click on Find. And then I can scroll down, and I have the option to decide how zoomed in or how zoomed out I want the center of my map to be. So I'm going to zoom out quite a bit by clicking the Zoom Out button here and show a much wider view of Denver. All right, that looks pretty good. And then I'll scroll down further. And the mouse wheel zoom option, what this is, if you leave this on, your users would be able to use the wheel on their mouse to zoom in and out of your map. And I think that's actually a little bit inconvenient. So I'm going to turn that off. And the next thing I want to do is scroll up. And to actually add the physical location for your business, you need to click on Add New Pin. And we'll type in the title of our business. And then the map pin address is where you're going to put in your actual physical address. I'll just type in Main Street, Denver, Colorado, and click on Find. And then if we scroll down, you can also add a little note that will show up when your users click on your pin on your map. So I'm going to copy and paste what I've got here. Click on Save, and then click on Save and Exit. And we'll click on Update. And now when we view the front end of our site and refresh the page, notice we now have our map, and I can click on our location here, and it's going to give the title and the note that we put in. And your users, of course, could use the zoom buttons to zoom in and out, and click, hold, and drag, just like that. All right, the next thing we're going to do is create our packages page, so I'll open that up in the front end. Then I'll go back to the back end, and I'll go to Pages, click on All Pages. Then I'll click on Our Packages to open that up in the page editor. And then of course I'll switch over to the Divi Builder by clicking Use the Divi Builder. And then the first thing I want to do is insert a one column row here. Then I'll click on Insert Modules to insert a text module for our page title. And then I'll center the text and scroll down and type in our packages. And then switch over to Advanced Design Settings. And then for the font, we're going to change that to Lato Light, of course. Bump up the font size to 55. And we'll click on Choose Custom Color, click on Select Color. Grab the hex code we need. Copy that. Paste that in there, click on Save and Exit. And then we'll go ahead and update the page and view the front end of our site and refresh the page. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is use a call to action module underneath our text module. And I really want to spend a couple of minutes on the call to action module because it's such a useful and versatile tool. First, let's go back to the back end. And we're going to click on Insert Modules underneath our text module. And you'll find the call to action module. Click on that. And a call to action has three different sections. You can have a title, and then you would have text below the title, and then you have the option to have a button that can be clickable and linked to another page. And you don't have to use all three sections if you don't want to, but just to show you what this would look like. For the title, I'm going to type in, this is the CTA, the call to action title. And then for the button URL, let's say I want my button to link to the About page on my website. I'm going to open up the front end of my site in another tab, and I'm just going to go to the About Us page, open that up, and then I'll copy the URL here. Select the text, copy all of that, and go back and paste in that URL here. And then for the button text, I'm going to type in About Us. And then I'll leave all these other settings set to the default setting. I do want to go ahead and center the text, so we'll change the orientation to center. And then the text that I want to appear below the title, I'm going to type in, this is the content for my call to action. And then let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit, and click on Update. And I can exit out of this About Us page on the front end and open up our packages page, and we'll refresh the page. All right, and this is what a call to action module looks like out of the box. And you can see that our background color is the green accent color that we have for our theme. And then we have the title, the text below the title, and then we have this button. And you can see that all of our text is white, including our button text, and the button border color is also white, and the button background color is completely transparent, so it's taking on the background color we have for the call to action. Now, when I hover over the button, notice that we have a mild transparency for the background color. So in essence, it's just turning our button background into a lighter version of our call to action background. Now this is a great feature because what you have here is a button setting that will look good on any call to action as long as your background color is dark enough for light text to show up on. And I'm going to demonstrate this by adding another call to action identical to this one beneath this one. And the only thing that's going to be different is going to be the background color. I'm going to change it to the blue. And then you'll be able to see that the default button setting will still apply and still look really professional. So let's go back to the back end. And what I'm going to do is show you how to duplicate a module. And all you need to do is click on this button here next to the settings button. And this is going to make an exact copy, when I click on that, an exact copy of the call to action. So let's update the page here. And we'll refresh the page on the front end. So you can see it's an identical copy. And then I'm going to go back and change the background color for the second call to action by clicking on the settings button here. Then I'll scroll down. And where it says background color, I'm going to click on select color, and then I'll remove the hex code that's there, and then I'll go back to my color palette, and I'm going to grab the hex code for this blue, copy all 6 letters or numbers, and go back, and we'll paste this in here. I'll select that, delete that, and paste this in. Then let's click on save and exit, click on update, view the front end of our site, and refresh the page. All right, so of course our text is still white, and when I hover over the button now, it's this lighter blue. And just to show you, when I click on either one of these buttons, it's going to take me to the About page because that's the URL that we put into the call to action module. Then let's go back to the packages page, and then we'll go back to the back end. And I want to show you, of course, you can have call to action modules side by side on the same row, and that can look really professional as well. So to do that, I'm going to add a new row. Click on add row, and you can choose however many columns you want. I'm going to choose this 2-column option here since I have 2 call to actions currently. And what I'm going to do is just click, hold, and drag the first one and release it into the column there. And then I'll do the same with the second call to action and release it there. Let's go ahead and update the page and view the front end. Refresh the page. All right, so you can see that this is another professional look that you can have and use. Now for this next example, I'm going to revert back to the 1-column call to action that we first had with this green call to action. So to do that, we'll go back to the back end, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag the call to action back up to the first row underneath our text module. And then I can click on the X to remove this entire row. And let's go ahead and update the page, view the front end, and refresh. The next thing I want to do is show you how to use a call to action module without having a background color. So if we go back to the back end and we click on our module settings button, scroll down, and where it says use background color, by default it's set to yes. And of course the background color is set to be our green theme accent color. If I click where it says yes, that's going to turn the background color off, and then I can save and exit. Click on update, view the front end, and refresh the page. Notice that it seems like there's nothing there, but when I click, hold, and drag to select the text, you can see that we actually do have all of our text in place, including our button, but it's all white text, so it's blending in with the default white background. Now let's go back and click on the module settings button again. Now let's say we didn't want to have a background color, but we still wanted to use a call to action module. We just simply need to change the text color to dark by clicking here. Select dark and save and exit. Then click on update. View the front end and refresh the page. Now you can see we have all the text from our call to action, and we have the dark text here, and then the button is now taking on our theme accent color with the text color and the outline color. And when I hover over it, we get this effect. Now let's go back and discuss some of the other options you have with the call to action module. Let's click on the module settings button here. And we'll scroll down. Of course, we've gone over the use of a background color for your call to action module. You can turn that on and change the background color to anything that you want. And also, when you click on the advanced design settings, you can change your font and these formatting options and the font size and the font color for just your header, which is the top line of text. If we go back to the call to action module, that would be this text here. And then we'll switch back to advanced design settings. You can also change the font size and all the other settings that have to do with font with the body font, which of course is the text that you would have in this section here. And then back to advanced design settings, you can control, or you can use a border, and the border would cover your entire call to action. So it would be a rectangular border around your entire call to action. You could turn that on here if you wanted to and select a border color, and you can change the border width to get different effects. And of course you can play with that. And you can also use a custom button for all of your call to action modules. And to use a custom button, you would just click where it says no to turn this on. And then you can scroll down and you have all these different button settings for the button text, the color, the background color, the width of the border, so you can make it more rounded if you wanted to, or not rounded at all. And then if we scroll down further, you can select a custom icon here, and you have all these different icons to choose from. And scroll down even further, you can change the hover effect of your button if you want to with these settings. Now, I'm not going to go over these and actually use these settings right now, but when we create our homepage in just a moment, we are going to be using a custom button. So we'll be covering all this. I just wanted to point this out to you. And let's go ahead and exit out of this. And what I'm going to do is remove the call to action that we've been using as a demo. So I'll click on the X button there. And then I'm going to click on Insert Modules and insert a new call to action by clicking Call to Action. And I mentioned earlier that you have three sections with the call to action module: the title that would go here, and then the text below the title that you would put in here at the bottom. And then you have the option to have a button, and you would put your button text in here and your button URL here. Now, you don't have to utilize all three of these sections, and for this module, I'm actually not going to utilize a button. I just want to have a title and text below the title, and the reason I'm using a call to action for this is because I can put a top line of text that's bigger and then a bottom line of text that's smaller, and a call to action just makes that really easy to do. So for my title, I'm going to type in "We like options," period, and then I'm going to leave the button URL blank and the button text blank. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the bottom and type in the line of text below the title, and I'll copy and paste this text in. Got it right here. Select that, copy it, and paste it in. Then I'll scroll up, and we'll start with the top. I don't want to have a background color. I want the background color to just be white, just like my section color. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off by clicking where it says yes. And then because I did that, and because my section color is white by default, I need to change my text color to dark. And then for my text orientation, I want it to be centered, so I'll change that to center. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on Save and Exit, and click on Update, and view the front end, and refresh the page. All right, now we have our call to action. And even though it's not really a call to action, we were able to use that module to get this top line and bottom line text effect. All right, now we can add a pricing table underneath our call to action, and the pricing table module is just another fantastic module included with the Divi theme. You can showcase your products and services in a really neat and professional way by listing out your different options and your different prices. So to add a pricing table, let's go back to the back end. And since I want my pricing table to just be a one-column pricing table, I don't need to add another row. I can use the one-column row that we already have. So I'm going to click on Insert Module, and then I'm going to find the pricing table module, click on that. And then for each one of your packages, you need to add a new pricing table. So we'll start with our first beginner group lesson package by clicking on Add New Pricing Table. And then we need to fill out all these different options. And for now, I'm going to skip the featured option here. We'll leave that off. For the title, I'm going to type in Group Beginner Lessons. And then the subtitle will appear beneath the title, and I'm going to copy some text that I have. Copy and paste that in. And then we'll put in the currency symbol. In my case, it's going to be the dollar symbol. And then this per option, if you're If your package is a subscription based, or if you're charging by the hour or by the month or by the year, you can put that in here. So since we are charging by the hour, I'm going to type in hour. And then for the price, for the beginner package, I'm going to type in $19.99. And then for the button URL, we're going to link to the schedule, a free lesson page that we haven't created yet. So for now, I'm going to put in the pound symbol, and this is just going to act as a placeholder for the actual URL. We'll replace this with the URL for our schedule a lesson page when we create that page here in just a moment. And then for the button text, I want this to say schedule a trial lesson. Then we'll scroll down. And then for the content here, this is where we list all the different features of the package. So I'm going to copy and paste these different features in one at a time. Press enter. And we'll paste that in. And then I'll scroll up to the top of my content area, and I want to point out here that if you add the plus symbol, it's going to include that option in the package, and if you add the minus symbol, it's going to exclude the option. So for these top three, I'm going to add the plus symbol. Type in the plus symbol. Then I'll scroll down, and since these bottom two options are not included in this particular package, I'm going to click next to the end of the text here and add the minus symbol. And do the same here. And then I'm going to save. So that adds the table for our group beginner lessons. And then I've got two more. And since a lot of the options are going to be the same, I could just add a new pricing table and start from scratch. But since a lot of these options are going to be the same, I'm going to click on the duplicate button here. And that's going to duplicate and make an identical copy of the first table. So now when I click on the settings button, I can replace some of these, like the title. I want to change to beginner private lessons. So I'll type that in. Then I'll replace the subtitle. Copy and paste some text that I have here. And the currency is going to be the same, and the hourly charge is going to be the same. The price is going to be different. So I'll type in the new price. I'll leave the button URL and button text the same. And then for the content, I'm going to delete what's there. Select that, and I'm going to copy these in one at a time. And then these top three, again, are going to be included, so I'm going to add the plus symbol at the beginning. And then these bottom two are not going to be included, so I'm going to add the minus symbol and click on Save. And then I'll duplicate the last pricing table, so I'll click on the Duplicate button. Then I'll click on the Edit button here for the final table, and I'll change the title to Advanced Private Lessons, and then I'll replace the subtitle by selecting what's there, deleting it, and I'll copy and paste the subtitle I have here. I'll leave the currency and the hour the same, and then the price is going to be $44.99, so I'll type that in. Then I'll leave the button settings the same, and then the content is all going to be the same, except for I'm going to include these last two options rather than exclude them, so I'll replace the minus symbol with the plus symbol. And then let's go ahead and click on Save, and then we'll click on Save and Exit here, and then let's go ahead and update the page. And now let's take a look at our front end and refresh our packages page. All right, notice we have the start of our pricing table right below our call to action here. Now notice that the price is taking on our theme accent color, and you see that here. And if we scroll down, the buttons are taking on our green theme accent color as well. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to put the advanced private lessons in the center, and I want to make that the featured pricing table because this is the most expensive option, and usually for your business, you want to showcase the option that is going to benefit you in the biggest way. So let's go back to the back end, and I'm going to click on the module settings button for the pricing tables module. And then first I'm going to rearrange these by click holding and dragging the advanced and putting it in the middle and releasing. And then I'm going to click on the module settings button for the advanced private lessons table. And I'm going to check to make this featured. I'm going to change that to yes. Go ahead and click on save, and we'll save and exit, and click on update. And then we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so notice what that does is it bumps it up a little bit, so it's a little bit taller than the others, and also the header is now the theme accent color, which is great. And I actually want to keep the header color the theme accent color, but I want these other header colors to be the blue from my color palette. I think that'll look better than this gray that we have, and I think the white text will show up better on the blue. So let's go back to the back end, and we'll click the settings button for our pricing table module again. And then click on Advanced Design Settings, and you have all these different options to where you can literally change every aspect of your pricing table. You can change the fonts, the colors, all those different options here. And what I want to do is change the table header background color by clicking on Choose Custom Color and click on Select Color. And I want to change the header, the table header color to blue. So I'll go to my color palette and I'll copy the hex code for my blue. Then I'll go back and I'll paste that in, and then click on Save and Exit, and we'll update and view the front end. And I want to point out, when we refresh the page, notice that they all change blue, and I actually want my featured table, the advanced private lessons, to remain green. So to get that back to green, we're going to go back to the back end and click on the module settings button again. Click on Advanced Design Settings, and we've got our blue setting here. Now we need to change the table header for the featured table, so we're going to scroll down, and we're going to find that setting towards the bottom here, where it says Featured Table Header Text Color. We actually want the background color, so I'm going to keep looking right here for the Featured Table Header background color. I'm going to click on Choose Custom Color, Select Color, and then I'm going to get the hex code for the green from my color palette. I'll copy that, come back and paste that in, and click on Save and Exit. Click on Update. We'll refresh the front end of our site. All right, now you can see we have our header set up properly. And the last thing I want to do is remove these bullet lists. And to do that, I'm going to go back to the back end, click on the Module Settings button, click on Advanced Design Settings, and right here where it says Show Bullet, I'm going to change that to No. And again, you can play with all these other options to completely customize your pricing table, but I'm going to leave mine as it is and click on Save and Exit, and then I'll update, and we'll review the front end one more time, refresh the page. All right, so now we have our pricing table page set up. And the next thing we need to do is add our Schedule a Free Lesson page so that we can add the URL for that page into our pricing table. So to do that, let's go back to the back end, and we're going to go to Pages and click on Add New since we haven't created this page yet. And I'm going to call this Schedule a Free Lesson. And then I'm going to click on Use the Divi Builder. And I want to insert a one column row, so I'm going to click on Insert Columns, select the one column option, and then click on Insert Modules. And instead of using a text module for the page title like we've done for our other pages, I'm going to use another call to action module. So I'll click on the call to action. And I'm not going to use a button, but I do want to have a title and text below the title. So for the title, I'm going to type in Schedule a Free Lesson, exclamation point, and then I'll leave the button URL blank and the button text blank. And then for the background color, I don't want to use a background color, so where it says yes, I'm going to click on that to turn that off. And then because I did that, I need to change the text color to dark so the text is legible. And then I do want to center the text. And then I'm going to copy and paste several paragraphs that I've got typed out. I'll copy that and paste that in here. And then let's scroll up. And I'm going to click on Advanced Design Settings because I want to change the font for Schedule a Free Lesson. So I'm going to click on Advanced Design Settings. The font is going to be Lato Light, just like our other page titles. And then I want to make the font 55. So I'll bump that up. Then I'm going to change the color by clicking on Choose Custom Color. Click on Select Color. Then I'll copy the hex code from our color palette. And I'll come back and paste that in. Click on Select Color again, paste that in. And then now let's click on Save and Exit. Click on Publish. And I want to point out we can't view this page on our front end because we don't have this page added to our menu. So let's go back to the back end. And what we can do is we can open this page up on the front end by clicking on View Page here. I'm going to Control click or right click with a PC on View Page and select Open Link in New Tab. And this is what our Schedule a Free Lesson page looks like currently. So now that we have our call to action in place, I want to add another contact form below this, and it's going to be specifically for scheduling a free lesson. So let's go back to the page editor, click on Insert Modules, and find the contact form module, click on that. And I'm going to leave the CAPTCHA on, and then the email address, again, this is the email where you want your contact form submissions to be sent to. So it would just be your email address at gmail.com, for example. And I do want to copy and paste a title that I have for the contact form. So I'll copy this, and this will appear above the contact form. So I'll paste that in. Now I'm going to click on Save and Exit, and we'll click on Update. Then we'll view the Schedule a Free Lesson page and refresh the page. All right, so now they can read what I have here, and then they could fill out the form and submit it, and then that way you would be able to get back to them. Now, I do want to show you one cool trick really quickly here. Notice how this line of text is considerably larger than this lower line. If you wanted to make these lines look more symmetrical, what you can do is go back to the back end, and then I'm going to come down and click on the Module Settings button for the Call to Action module, and click on Advanced Design Settings. And then right here at the top, we have this max width option, and this is referring to the max width of the call to action module. Now, by default, it will just take on whatever the default setting is for your entire website layout max width. And if you remember earlier, ours is 1080 pixels by default, and that's what we left it at. Now we're going to override this number, and I did some trial and error experimentation and found that 900 pixels, so I'll just type in 900, was a good number, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Save and Exit. Click on Update, and then we'll view the Schedule a Free Lesson page and refresh the page. And you can see that our text is more even. And like I said, I just did some trial and error experimentation to figure out that 900 was a good width. You may have to try several different widths before you're satisfied. And this is a completely optional thing to do, so you can experiment with that if you wish to. Now that we have the Schedule a Free Lesson page created, we need to copy the URL. So I'll select the URL and copy that, and then we can go back to the back end, and we're going to go to Pages, All Pages, and we're going to open up our Packages page. Click on that. And we're going to open up the Pricing Table module by clicking on the Module Settings here. And then for each one of these pricing tables, we need to replace the pound symbol that we had for the URL with the URL for the Schedule a Free Lesson page. So I'll open these up individually, and then I'll come down and select the pound symbol and delete it and replace it with the URL for the Schedule a Free Lesson page. Click on Save, and we'll repeat this for the other two. Select the pound symbol, delete it, and paste in the new URL. Click Save one more time. Select the pound symbol, replace it, click Save, and then we're going to click on Save and Exit and click on Update. And now when we view the front end of our site, the Our Packages page, and refresh the page, we can now click on these buttons to be taken to the Schedule a Free Lesson page, just like this. All right, we've finally made it to the home page, so I'll go ahead and open that up in the front end. And then I'll exit out of this YouTube tab that we don't need. All right, so everything we've done up to this point has been to prepare you for creating the home page, because now you understand how to use several of the modules included with the Divi theme, and you also understand how to create custom layouts with different rows and columns. Now we're going to take that knowledge a step further so that you'll be able to customize every section on your site with background colors, images, and videos. So the first thing we're going to do on our homepage is create a call to action. And if we look at our example sites, notice that each one on the homepage has a slogan or brand name and also a one-sentence overview of their product or service. If we look at bellhops, you can see that they have affordable moving help on your schedule, and let bellhops do the lifting. If we look at Airbnb, we have welcome home and then rent unique places to stay from local hosts. If we look at Glowforge, we have Glowforge, the iconic 3D laser printer that made crowdfunding history. Now, there's also a call to action button on each one of these home pages, and these call to actions are designed to funnel people into the business's sales system. In the case of bellhops, they want you to put in a zip code so that they can schedule a moving appointment for you. But if we look at Airbnb and Glowforge, they want you to learn more about their product or service. So in all three cases, they want you to take a certain action that will hopefully lead to business revenue. Now, in our case, we have this fictitious music lessons business, and for our call to action, we want to encourage people to sign up for a free music lesson. And the reason we want to do this is because we know that hypothetically, if people take a free lesson, they are more likely to continue taking lessons, which leads to future revenue. So whatever your business is, you will probably want to think of a sentence that describes your business and a call to action that encourages potential customers to take a particular action that will lead to future business income. So let's go ahead and open up our home page in the back end, and we'll go to the back end, go to Pages, click on All Pages, and then we'll click on Home. And then, of course, I am going to be using the Divi Builder, so I'll click on Use the Divi Builder. And just as a refresher, by default, we have a standard section represented by this blue box here. And within this standard section, we have a row represented by the screen box. And the first thing I want to show you how to do is change the background color, image, or use a video for your background for any given section. And to do that, you just simply hover over the section settings icon here and click on that. And you have all these different options. Now, of course, if you do use a background image for a section, then you will want to use a large image because your image will actually span the full width of the browser from one end all the way to the other. And remember, your image needs to be at least as large as the area you are using it on to maintain the highest quality. So we'll go back and get a larger image for our background here in a moment. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, and if I exit out of this, you might think that you need a full width section to get your background image to span the full width of the screen, but this is not the case. With the Divi theme, you only need to use a full width section when you're using full width modules, like we did with the full width map module on our contact page. But as long as you're using standard modules, like we're going to do with the rest of our homepage, you only need to use standard sections. So to add a background image, we'll click on the section settings button again. We would add that here, and then you could also choose to have a background color instead of a background image, and you could select the color here. And by default, it's going to be white, but of course you could change that. And then to add a background video, you can add the file here, and we're going to be doing that here in just a moment. But I want to start with a background image. So to add a background image, you can come up here and you would click on Upload an Image. But before I do that, I need to get the large image that I want to use for my background. So I'm going to exit out of this and open a new tab. And I'm going to go back to pixabay.com. And I'm going to search for music again and leave this on all images and click the search icon. Then I'll scroll down and I'm going to use the same image that I used on my About page, which was on page 5. So I'll type that in, press Enter. Scroll down, and the image I want to use is going to be right here. I'm going to click on that. And then I need to click on Free Download. And then I need to download the original file size because earlier in the video I used the smaller 1280 pixel file. So what you would do is click on the original and then click on Download. And then to download the large images, you do need to sign up for a free account. And I actually already have this downloaded and saved in a folder. So then I'm going to go back to the back end. And to add this as my section background image, I'm going to click on the section settings button. And then I'm going to click on Upload an Image next to Background Image. Then I'll click on Upload Files, select Files, and then I'll find this file on my computer. I've got it right there, and you can see that the dimension is over 2,000 pixels wide here. Then I'm going to click on Open. And then we'll click on Set as Background. And then I'm going to click on Save and Exit. And even though we haven't added any modules, we're going to go ahead and click on Update. And now let's view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so now we have our background image showing up, and of course it's very small because we haven't added any other content to our page. But as we start adding more content to this particular section, the background image will expand. So let's go back to the back end, and I want to add a one column row. So I'm going to click on Insert Columns and choose the one column option. And then I'm going to click on Insert Modules, and I want to add a text module. So I'll find that and click on that. And I want this top line of text to be the top line of our slogan, and it's going to say discover your creative self. And I just wanted to show other people how they can benefit from the business, this mock music lessons business. So I'm going to come down and type in discover your creative self, period. Then I'm going to make the text color light, change that, and that'll be white text. And then the text orientation, I'm going to change that to center. And let's go ahead and save and exit, and then we'll update the page and view the front end and refresh. All right, so you can see we have our line of text, and now I'm going to go back and make it considerably larger and change the font. So we'll go back to our back end and click on the module settings button here for the text module. And then we'll switch over to advanced design settings, and I'm going to change the font to Lato Light, just like our page titles. And then for the font size, I'm going to bump this all the way up to 60 actually, a little bit larger than our page titles. And then I'm going to click on Save and Exit and update the page and view the front end and refresh. All right. The next thing I want to do is add a one column call to action right under this text. So let's go back to the back end, and because it is going to be a one column call to action, I can use the same row, the same one column row that we have. So I'm going to click on Insert Modules, and I'm going to find the call to action module, click on that. Now for the title, I'm going to leave this blank because the text I have above the call to action module is going to act as the title. But for the text below the title, I'm going to add some content, and I'll just copy and paste this. Copy that and paste this in here. And then I do want the text color to be light, and I do want the text orientation centered. Then I'm going to scroll up, and I'm going to turn off the background color. For now anyway. We'll come back to this here in a moment. And let's go ahead and click on, well actually before I save and publish, I do want to add a button, and I'm going to link this button to the schedule a free lesson page. So for the button text, I'm just going to type in schedule a free lesson. And then I'm going to go to the front end of my site where I've got the schedule a free lesson page still up, and I'm going to copy the URL. And be sure to get every character, and then we'll go back, and next to button URL, we'll paste this in. Now I'm going to click on Save and Exit, and click on Update. And now when we view the home page on the front end of our site and refresh the page, notice that we now have our call to action text in place, but it's too small and it's very difficult to read, especially the button. It's very difficult to read this on this particular black and white background. So we are going to definitely be fixing that. There's a wonderful trick that I'm going to show you that makes things much more legible, and it's very universal. So we'll come back to that. But first, let's increase the size of this text here. So we're going to go back to the back end. And we're going to click on the module settings button for the call to action module, and then switch to advanced design settings. And to increase the size of our call to action content, notice that we could adjust the header font size, but this actually wouldn't work because the header font would only, if we switch to general settings, that would only affect what you have in the title. We want to affect the font size for what we have in the content section here, so we're going to switch back to advanced design settings and scroll down, and what we need to adjust is the body font size. So I'm going to change this to 30, so I'll type in 30. And now click on Save and Exit, and then we'll update the page. Go back to the front end and refresh the page. All right, so we have our font size increased there. And actually, I want to make this the same font as our top line of text here, the Lato Light. So let's go back and do that real quickly. So we'll go back to the back end, click on the settings button, advanced design settings. And again, we don't need to adjust the header font. We need to adjust the body font. So where it says body font, next to that, I'm going to click where it says default and select Lato Light. And click on Save and Exit and Update. And view the front end and refresh the page. All right, so now we have our font in place. Now the next thing I want to do is customize this button. You can see it's very hard to read as it is, and I want to change it to where the background color for the button is the green from our color palette. And when you hover over the button, I want the background color to be the same green except partially transparent so that it's going to be a little bit lighter. And to do that, let's go back to the back end. And we're going to click on the module settings button here for the call to action. And then we're going to switch to advanced design settings to get to the button settings. We'll scroll down to the very bottom where it says use custom styles for button. I'm going to select where it says no to change that to yes. And now when I scroll down, I have all of these different button options. And we're going to leave most of these set to the default, but I do want to change a few of these. So for the button background color, I'm going to click where it says choose custom color and then click on select color. And then I'm going to go back to my color palette and copy the hex code, the 6-digit hex code for the green. Copy that and come back. And I'll paste that in. And then I'll scroll down and I'm going to leave the button border width to 2 like it is by default. And you can play with that and get different effects. And I'm also going to leave the button border radius set the way it is. But for the button border color, I'm going to click on choose custom color. Click on select color, and I'm going to come up and paste in the same hex code. So it's going to be the same green as the button background color. And then I'm going to scroll down, and you can change the button icon if you want, and you could do that by where it says add button icon. You could select that and click on that and then change that to yes, and then you could select a custom icon, but I'm going to leave this set on default. Then we'll scroll down. And for the button hover background color, this is what I want to change to a lighter, more transparent version of the green. So I'll click on choose custom color, click on select color, and then I'll paste in the green hex code that we copied from our color palette. And then I'm going to drag the transparency slider here down to 0.85, and you'll see the number on the right. And I've got it to 0.85 there, so it's a little bit lighter. And then for the button hover border color, I'm going to click on choose custom color, click on select color, and I'm just going to use the same green from my color palette. And this time I'm not going to adjust the transparency. So what's going to happen is when you hover over the button background color will get a little bit lighter, but the border color will stay the same. So it'll be this nice sort of 3D effect, and you'll be able to see that in just a moment. So let's go ahead and click on save and exit, and then we'll click on update. And let's view the home page on the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, now we have our button, and when I hover over the button, notice that the background gets a little bit lighter and it is partially transparent, and we have our button border showing up. And of course, when I click on this button, it's going to take me to the schedule a free lesson page because that's the URL that we put into the call to action. Let's go ahead and go back. And notice that it's still difficult to read the second line of text, learn from passionate musical enthusiasts. So what I'm going to do is use a black transparent background for our entire call to action. And this is a great trick you can use anytime you have light text that's hard to read. So let's go back to the back end. And I'm going to click on the module settings button for the call to action module. And then we'll scroll down. And I'm going to change where it says use background color. I'm going to switch that to yes. And then instead of using the default green from our theme accent color, I'm going to click on select color. Then I'll scroll down and I'm going to click on the black option here. And the hex code is going to be 6 zeros. And then I'm going to drag the transparency slider all the way down to 0.4. All right. And then click on save and exit and click on update. And then we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so notice that it's much easier to read now, and also notice that by default, our black transparent background is extending all the way from here to about here, which is the full content width of our site. I want to actually make this only extend about as wide as the title, Discover Your Creative Self. So what I'm going to do is use another free tool, and you can get it for the Firefox or Chrome browsers, and this is called Measure It. And once installed, you can activate the tool, and I'm going to do that now. And then I'm going to measure the width from here to about here. And that's going to be about 675. You can see it says 678. I'm going to go with 675 pixels. So I'm going to press Escape to get out of the tool. And then I'm going to go back to the back end and click on the Module Settings button for the call to action. And then switch to Advanced Design Settings. And where it says Max Width, I'm going to click here and just type in 675 and press Save and Exit. and click on Update. Now we'll view the front end and refresh the page. All right, so now our call to action box is 675 pixels wide. And if you don't have the measure it tool, or if you just don't want to go through the trouble of downloading it, you can always just kind of guesstimate and do a trial and error process to determine a good width. Now the next thing I want to do is expand the height of my top section here so that it takes up the majority of my browser window. And as you've seen, as we've added more content to our top section, it has slowly expanded, but I want to be able to expand the height without having to add any more content. So we just have our text module and our call to action module. And we can do that with a very basic CSS code. And you certainly don't have to have any background with CSS code. You just need to be able to copy and paste. So we're going to go back to the back end. Then I'm going to click on the settings button for the section since we want to adjust the section height. So I'll click on that. And then I'm going to switch to custom CSS. And then you have this before, main element, and after. And I always add, if I use CSS code, I always use the main element section. So I'll click here. We're going to type in min-height : space, and then I'm going to go back to the front end of my site on my homepage and use the measure it tool again. And I'm just going to click about here and measure down. And you can see that the height is right around 720 pixels. So that's the number I'm going to go with. And then I'll press escape to get out of the measure it tool. Go back to the back end. And so I've got min-height : space, and then I'm going to type in 720. And then px, and then semicolon. And I'll leave this code in the video description on YouTube when you click on show more so you can access that, or you can just type it in either way. And then let's go ahead and click on save and exit and click on update. Then we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so now we have our new height. And then the next thing I want to do, I want to bump this text module and this call to action module down just a little bit. So to do that, we'll go back to the back end. And this time, since I want to adjust both the text and the call to action module, they're both contained in the same row. So I'm going to click on the settings button for the row. And then I'm going to switch to advanced design settings. And next to custom margin, we're going to use the top margin since we want to bump down further from the top. I'm going to click in here and just type in 50. And this is going to represent 50 pixels. And again, this is a trial and error type of number. And I found that 50 was a good number. So I'm going to click on save and exit and click on update. Then we'll view the front end of our site. And when I refresh the page, notice how this entire row is going to shift down just a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. Now we're going to add a video for our background, and as you've seen with our example sites, adding a video can be a fantastic way to showcase your product or service. People love social proof, so just seeing other people using your product or service can be a great buying incentive. Now I'm actually going to use a video from pixabay.com, but you can definitely use your own videos, which is relatively easy to do. Usually you can just take video from your smartphone and piece together a few clips using iMovie on a Mac or Windows Movie Maker on a PC. There's also a free online resource that you can use to convert your video to file formats that we need for our website, and we'll be discussing that here in just a moment. And because there are so many different ways to create a short video for your website, I'm not going to cover the step-by-step specifics of that in this tutorial, but I do want to give you a few things to keep in mind. First of all, keep your videos short. Now, the video we'll be using is only 7 seconds long, but I'm not saying that your video can't be longer than that. It certainly can be. Just be aware that when added to your website, your video will repeat continuously, and by keeping it short, you can drastically minimize the file size. The bigger the file, the longer the load time, and the less user-friendly. Also, try exporting your video at 720 HD resolution instead of 1080. And your video doesn't have to be extremely sharp to look professional on a website. You can examine our example sites to see that for yourself. Lower resolution will help reduce the file size as well. Now, also, you want to make sure you mute or delete the audio, and most people will appreciate that. Also, deleting the audio is better than muting the audio because if you just mute it with your editing software, you might still see an audio symbol on your browser window when you're viewing the video on your site. And this is just because even though you've muted the audio track still exists on your video file, so your browser thinks there is actual audio. Now, I know with iMovie, you can control-click on a video clip that you've added to your timeline and click on Detach Audio. Then you can click on the separate audio track and press Delete on the keyboard to remove it completely. Now, also use video.online-convert.com to reduce the file size. The video I'll be using is only 7 seconds long, and it's just 2.3 megabytes. If you have a short video and the file is much larger than that, you can actually use this website to reduce the file size, and we'll go over how to do that in just a moment. So to add our video background, we're going to go back to the back end, and of course on the page editor for the home page, we're going to click on the section settings button for the top section. Then we'll scroll down, and underneath background video MP4, you can see that it says that we need both a .mp4 and also a .webm file format to ensure maximum browser compatibility. So you would upload your MP4 here and your WebM file here. Now, if you don't have either one of these file formats, then there's a free online resource we can use to convert your video from whatever file format it currently is in to a .mp4 and a .webm. So we're going to go over that in just a moment. And also notice that video backgrounds are disabled from mobile devices. And it says that instead your background image, which we have up here, will be displayed. So we're going to leave our background image in place for mobile devices. And then to get my video for the video background, I'm going to go back to pixabay.com and I'll click on the logo to be taken to the home page. And then I'm going to search for music. So I'll type that in and change all images to videos. And then I'll click on the search icon. And then you have all these different results to choose from. And like everything else on Pixabay, all of these videos are completely free to use. So what you can do is find the video that you want, hover over it, and that will actually play the video. And you can see the length of the video here. It's 7 seconds for this particular one. So I'm going to click on this video to download it and click on free download here. And then with this HD 720 resolution option selected, you can see that it's 1280 by 720 pixels, and it's just a little over 2 megabytes. I'm going to click on download. And first notice that the file format is already in a .mp4, but I'll still need to convert that to a .webm. And I actually already have this file downloaded to my computer, but what you would do is click on Save File, and then you would click on OK. And then to convert the file, we need to convert this to a .webm, so I'll click on Cancel. And I'm going to open a new tab and go to video.online-convert.com. And again, we already have the .mp4 file, but if your video file is in a different file format, you'll first need to convert to MP4. So here on the left, click on Convert to MP4. And underneath Upload Your Video, you want to click on Browse. And you would find the video on your computer and select it and click on Open. And since I already have the MP4, I'm just going to click on Cancel. And then scroll down, and to convert the file to the MP4, you would just simply click on Convert here, and that would download the new file to your computer. Now, a couple of things I want to go over how to reduce the file size if your file size is too large. One way to do that is to take a 1080 resolution, HD resolution video and make that 720 resolution. And what you can do to do that is where it says change screen size, type in 1280, and then in the next box you would type in 720. And then you could come down and convert the file, and that should reduce your file size. Another way to reduce your file size, I'll delete this, would be to actually, where it says set file size, you can set a target file size. So if your video is 40 or 50 megabytes, for example, and you want to see what a 10 megabyte video file would look like, you could type in 10 there and then select convert file and see whether or not the quality was acceptable. And if the quality wasn't acceptable, you could always come back and try again with a higher number, say 20 megabytes, and convert that file to see how the quality turns out. Now, we need to convert our file, our MP4 file, to a .webm, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Convert to WebM, and then we'll click on Browse, and I'm going to find the MP4 file on my computer. I've got it right here. This is directly downloaded from Pixabay, and I'll click on Open, and then I'll scroll down, and since I'm already pleased with the file size, I'm just going to click on Convert File, and that's going to upload the video first. And after that uploads, it's going to process the file into the .webm file. And then you have the option to download the new file, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Save File and click on OK. And that's going to download this file to my computer. And I've actually got this set up to download straight to my desktop. So now to add both our .mp4 and .webm files to our website as our video background, we're going to go back to the back end. And we're going to click on the Section Settings button. And we'll scroll down. And next to Background Video MP4, I'm going to click on Upload a Video. And click on Select Files. We're going to make sure we're on the Upload Files tab there. Click on Select Files. And then I'll find the .mp4 that I downloaded straight from Pixabay, and I've got that here. So I'll select that and click on Open. And then we'll click on Set as Background Video. And then I'll scroll down and I'll click on Upload a Video next to the WebM option. And I'll click on Upload Files and click on Select Files. And I've got this WebM file saved to my desktop. Got it right here. So I'm going to click on Open. And then click on Set as Background Video. And then we're going to click on Save and Exit and click on Update. And now when we view the front end of our site and we're on our home page here and refresh the page, and we now have our new video background. And even though it's only 7 seconds long, it will continue to repeat as long as the user stays on this page. All right, now that I have my video background in place, notice that Discover Your Creative Self is still difficult to read, especially right there in the video. So what I want to do is go back and we're going to use some simple CSS code to add a text shadow. And this is going to really bring out the text there. So we're going to go back to the back end. And again, like last time when we added CSS, don't be afraid. You don't need to know any CSS at all to do this. You just need to be able to copy and paste. And I'll leave the CSS code in the video description below the video on YouTube. So what we're going to do is, since we just want to change the text that we have in our text module, I'm going to click on the settings button for the text module. And again, we only have Discover Your Creative Self in the text module, so the CSS code is only going to affect that text. So to add the CSS, we're going to click on Custom CSS, and we'll come down to the main element box and click there, and then we're just going to type in text dash shadow colon and then space, and then we're going to type in 1px space 1px space pound and then 6 zeros, and then semicolon. And what this is going to do, it's going to create a black text shadow because this is the hex code that represents black, and the text shadow is going to be 1 pixel to the right of the text and 1 pixel below the text. And we're just going to click on Save and Exit, and again, you just need to be able to copy and paste that into the custom CSS box, and then we're going to click on Update, and we'll view the front end and refresh the page. All right, now we have a nice text shadow, and you can see that it is more legible that way. All right, the next thing we're going to do is add a section below our video background here on our home page, and I want this section to have 3 different Blurb modules. And the Blurb module is a versatile tool that you can use for short write-ups about different parts of your website or about different aspects of your business or brand. And for this Blurb section, I'm going to use 3 different Blurb modules to reference 3 different sections on our website here. So to do that, let's go back to the back end. And because I want my Blurb modules here to take on their own background, I want them to have a white background below the video, I need to add a new standard section. Otherwise, if I added a new row and put the Blurb modules within this section, they would take on the video background. So I'm going to click on Add Standard Section here. And I do want to have 3 Blurb modules side by side, evenly spaced. So I'm going to use this 3-column layout here. So I'll select that. And then I'll come down and click on Insert Module and add my first Blurb module. So I'll find the Blurb module and click on that there. And then with the Blurb module, you have really 3 main elements. You have the title of the blurb, and then you have the option to use an icon or an image. And then you also have the text below the title that you would put here. And you can also make your icon or image a clickable link to another page anywhere on the internet, and you would just paste in the URL for that link here. So for this first blurb, I'm going to type in FAQ because this is going to reference my frequently asked questions page. And then for the URL, I'm going to go back to the front end. I've got this tab open. I'm going to click on my FAQ page to open that up, and I'll copy the URL, and then I'll come back and I'll paste that in here. All right, and then I'll scroll down, and I do want to use an icon. If you wanted to use your own icon or your own image, you could leave this off and you could upload the icon or image here. But the Divi theme does come with nearly 400 icons to choose from. So I'm going to turn this option to yes, and then I'll scroll down and you have all these different icons. I'm going to find the question mark icon and click on that. Then I'll scroll down, and for the icon color, by default, it should take on the theme accent color that you have. And of course, in my case, this is the green from my color palette. You could always change that, but I want to leave this set to the green. And I do want to choose to circle the icon. So I'm going to click on no to change that to yes. And for the circle color, I actually want the circle color to blend in with my background, and for the section background by default, it's going to be white. So I'm going to click on select color and choose the white option. And then I'll scroll down, and I do want to have a border around the circle, so I'll change this to yes. And for the circle border color, I want that to be the green from my theme accent color. So I'll leave that. It should be by default. And then for the icon placement, you have two options. You have above the blurb or to the left of the blurb. And if you choose to the left, your icon will be much smaller. And for these blurbs, I'm going to choose the top option. So I'll select that. And then I'm going to turn off the animation. I'll change that to no animation. And for the text color, since we are going to be using a white background, the default background for our section, I'm going to leave the text to dark. And I do want to center the text, so I'll change that to center. Then let's scroll down, and I'm going to paste in some text that I have here. Copy that, paste that in, and click on Save and Exit. And let's go ahead and click on Update to update the page. And then we'll go back to the front end, and we're on the front page. We'll refresh the page. And when we scroll down, we now have our first blurb module. And notice we have the white section background color because we added a new standard section. And we have our icon, and we can click on our icon or the blurb title to be taken to the frequently asked questions page because that's the URL that we put in place. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on the logo to be taken back to the front page, and then I'll scroll down. And the next thing I want to do is add two more blurbs, one here and one here. So let's go back to the back end. And I'll scroll down, and what I can do, since a lot of the features of the blurb for these other two blurbs will be the same as this first blurb, I can duplicate the blurb. So I'll click on this duplicate icon to clone the module, and then I'll click, hold, and drag and release the blurb here in the second column. And then I'll click on the blurb or the module settings button to change some of these settings. I'll change the title for the second blurb. This is going to link to my contact page, so I'll type in Contact Us. And then I'll select the URL that's there in place by default, remove that, and go back to the front end. And I'll click on my Contact Us page. And then I'll copy the URL by selecting everything and copying that and going back, and I'll paste that in. Then I'll scroll down, and I do want to use an icon, but of course I'm going to use a different icon. So I'll scroll down until I find the envelope icon, and I've got it right here. I'll select that. And I want all of these other settings to be the same. I want the icon circled. I want the icon to be the green. So I'll leave those the same. I want the placement to be the same. And the last thing I need to change is select the text that I have in place, remove that, and I'm going to paste in some new text. And I'll copy that here. Copy and paste that. And just to show you, of course, you can always make any of your text a clickable link to another page. And I want to make the words FAQ page a link to my frequently asked questions page. So I'll select that, click on the chain link icon, and I'll go back to the front end and click on my FAQ page again. And we'll copy the URL and go back and paste that URL in here. Click on Add Link. And of course, you could always select the link and click on Remove Link to remove the link, but we'll leave that as it is. Click on Save and Exit, and we'll update the page. And now we'll view the front page on the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, now we have our second Blurb module in place, and we'll go back and do this one more time for our third Blurb module here. So we'll go back to the back end and scroll down. And then I'll click on the clone module button here to clone this Blurb module, and then I'll click, hold, and drag the module and release that into the third column. And then I'll click on the module settings button. And this Blurb module is going to link to the image gallery page. So I'll click on, or I'll select the title that's there and replace it with image gallery. And for the URL, I'll select what's there and press delete. And then I'll go back to the front end of my site, and I'm going to open up the media page. And I'll copy the URL, go back and paste that in. And then I'll scroll down, and for the icon, I'm going to use a camera icon. So I'll find that. And I'm going to click on that. All these other settings will remain the same, and I'm going to go down to the bottom and select the content and press delete and replace that with some other content that I have. Select this, copy and paste that in. Then I'll click on save and exit, and I'll click on update and view the front end of our site on the front page and refresh the page. All right, we have all three of our blurbs in place. And of course, I can click on the icons to be taken to the page that I linked to. Now I'm going to go ahead and close out of these tabs that we no longer need. And then I'll click on the logo to be taken back to the front page. And I'll scroll down, and the next thing I want to do is add a call to action beneath our Blurb modules here. And I want the call to action to have its own blue background, the same blue from our color palette. So let's go back to the back end, and we'll scroll down. And because I want the call to action module to have its own blue background, and I don't want it to have the white background that we have for our Blurb modules section, I need to add a new standard section. So I'll click on that. And then I'm going to choose the one column option, since this is the only module that I want to have in this section. So I'll click on that. And I'm going to go ahead and make the section color, the background color, blue. So I'll click on the section settings button. And then I'll go to my color palette, and I'll copy the hex code, the 6-digit hex code for the blue. And I'll go back and I'll click on, next to background color, I'll click on select color, and I'll paste that in. Click on save and exit. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on insert module, and I'll find the call to action module, and I'll click on that. And then I'm going to give it a title, and I've got a title I'm going to copy and paste here. So I'll copy and paste that in. And I do want to have a button, and I want the button text to say get my free lesson, so I'll type that in. And I want this, of course, to link to my schedule a free lesson page. So I'm going to go back and get the URL by going back to the front end of my site. And I'll just click on the logo to be taken back to the home page, and I'll click on the schedule a free lesson button here. And that's going to open that page up, and I'll copy the URL and get every character and go back, and next to button URL, I'll paste that in. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to go ahead and leave the background color on for now, just so you can see. And notice that by default, of course, with a call to action, the background color is our green theme accent color. And we'll go back and fix this in a minute, but I want you to see the effect this will have. And the text color, I'm going to leave that to light, and I do want to center the text, so I'll change that there. And then I'm going to leave the content section blank because I just want to have a title and a button. Now I do want to switch to advanced design settings because I want to bump the font size of my title up. So next to header font size, I'm going to move this up to 34. And I'll leave that there. And then, of course, you could change your text color if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave it to the light text that we set under General Settings. Let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And then we'll click on Update. And now let's go back to the front end of our site, to our front page, and we'll refresh the page. And scroll down, and notice we now have our call to action. Of course, we have the blue section color, and then we have our call to action here with our button. And notice, of course, we have the green call to action background. I'm going to go back and change this to make it a transparent background so that all we have is our blue. I just wanted to show you that you can use two different colors for your section color and your call to actions. So let's go back to the back end, and we'll scroll down, and we'll click on the module settings button for the call to action. Scroll down, and where it says use background color, I'm going to click on yes to turn that to no, and click on save and exit, and we'll scroll up and click on update. And now we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so now we have our call to action with the button, and when I click on the button, of course it links to the Schedule a Free Lesson page. And if we go back, I do want to point out that we didn't customize the button, so it's taking on the standard default settings, which looks really nice. Now, earlier in the video, we went over how to rearrange your modules on the media page. We rearranged the image gallery and the YouTube video. I want to show you that you can actually rearrange entire sections. So, for example, if I wanted to have this call to action appear above this blurb module section, we can do that very easily by going back to the back end, and we'll scroll down. And all we need to do is click, hold, and drag the call to action section above the blurb section and release that. And now when we update the page and view the front end and refresh, you'll see that they are now flipped. But I'm going to go ahead and switch those back. So I'll do that very quickly here by click holding, dragging, and releasing. And then I'll go ahead and update the page, and I'll view the front end and refresh. Okay. All right, so now, of course, we've got our video background here with our call to action at the top, and we have our blurb section, and we have another call to action. Now, underneath this call to action, I want to add another section, and I want it to have a light gray background. Earlier in the video, we discussed how you can use neutral colors, and they go along with just about any color scheme. So we're going to use a light gray background. So let's go back to the back end, and I'll scroll down, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the Add Standard section here. And before I add a column, I'll exit out of that. I do want to change the background color, so I'll click on the Section Settings button there, and I'll click on Select Color next to Background Color. And then let's scroll down, and I'm going to start with white, so I'll click on white, and then I'm going to click, hold, and drag, and move this down just a little bit, just barely, and you can see the hex code is now F7, 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 and all I want is just a very subtle light gray, so I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And then the next thing I want to do is go ahead and click on Insert Columns, and the first thing I want to do is insert a one column layout, so I'll choose that option, and then I'm going to click on Insert Module. And I'm actually going to use a divider module, and this is something you can use to make your site look even more professional. It's a very subtle effect, but I'm just going to show you how this works. So we're going to click on the divider module here. And then I do want to change visibility from don't show to show divider. And I want the divider color to be a little bit darker than my background. So I'm going to click on Select Color. And if you recall, the section settings background was F7, F7, F7. So I'm actually going to start with that by typing that in. And then that's going to change. And then I'm going to bump this down a little bit further so it's a little bit darker. And I'm going to leave it right there. And let's scroll down. And I do want to leave the height of my divider at 1 pixel, but you can experiment with different widths there. You could increase that if you wanted to. But let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And let's go ahead and update the page. And we'll view the front end of our site on our front page here and refresh. And we'll scroll down. All right, so we have the start of our new section here, and you can see our divider. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is add a call to action with just 2 lines of text. We're going to use the title and the content section of the call to action. We're not going to use a button. Just like when we created our packages page, we use the call to action without a button. So let's go back to the back end, and we'll scroll down. And I'm going to use the same section, of course, and I'm also going to use the same row because this is also going to be a 1 column row. And I'm going to click on Insert Module and just add the call to action module. I'll click on that. And then for the title, I'm going to copy and paste some text. I'll copy that and paste that in there. And I'm going to leave the button URL blank and the button text blank. And I'm going to turn off the background color because I want this call to action to blend in with our light gray section background color. So I'll change that to no. And then because our background is a light color, it's a light gray, I need my text color to be dark so that it's legible. So I'll change that there. And then for the text orientation, I do want this to be centered. And I do want to copy and paste some content into the content section there. So I'll copy this text and paste that in. And go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And let's scroll up and click on Update. And we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so now we have our divider and our call to action. Now, the next thing I want to do, actually, you can see how the top line of text here is a lot wider rather than the bottom line. So let's go back and use the max width trick that we learned earlier. So we're going to go back to the back end and scroll down and click on the settings button for the call to action. And then we'll switch to advanced design settings, and where it says max width, I found through trial and error that 800 pixels was a good number, and that would make the lines more evenly spaced. So I'm going to type in 800, but of course you would need to experiment with that. And I'll click on Save and Exit, and then we'll scroll up and click on Update. And now we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so you can see it's a lot more even. Now the next thing I want to do is add 3 different images to this section underneath our call to action, and what I want to do is use a 2-column layout where the first column is 2/3 of the width of the row, so our image will be much larger, and then the other 2 images will be in one column, one on top of the other, so they'll be much smaller than the first image. So in order to do this, let's go back to the back end and we'll scroll down. And of course, I do want to use the same section, and since I want to have a 2-column row, I need to add a new row because this row up here, represented by the green box, is a 1-column row. So I'm going to click on Add Row within this same section, and I'm going to choose the 2/3, 1/3 option. And then I'm going to add my first image, the large image, to the first row, the wider row here. So I'll click on Insert Module, and then I'll find the image module and click on that. And then I'm going to click on Upload an Image. And I'm going to use some of the same images that we used for our image gallery. So they're actually already in my media library. But of course, if you needed to upload a file from your computer, you could click on Upload Files and click on Select Files to find that image. But I'll click back over to the media library. And this first image for the first row is going to be this one here. I'll click on that and click on Set as Image. And then let's scroll down. Now I'm going to leave the lightbox effect off, but you could experiment with that. And then I'm also going to leave the link URL blank because I don't want this image to be clickable and open up another page. But of course you could paste in a URL if you wanted to link the image to another page. And then let's scroll down, and I actually am going to turn the animation off. So I'll click on that, change that to no animation. And let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And let's go ahead and come up and update the page. And we'll view the front end and refresh. All right, so now we have our first image in place, and now we'll add our other 2 images, and they're going to stack one on top of the other here. So let's go back to the back end and scroll down, and we'll click on Insert Module in this second column, and I'll click on the Image module and click on Upload an Image. And I'm going to actually use this image here, so I'll click on that, click on Set as Image, and let's go ahead and save and exit. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my third image, and again, I want this to be in the same column underneath this image here, so I'll click on Insert Modules again, click on the Image module, Upload an Image, and I'm going to find the piano image here. I'll click on that, click on Set as Image, and actually I need to come down and turn off animation, so I'll do that. Click on Save and Exit, and I believe I need to turn off animation for this image as well. So I'll click on the Module Settings button and scroll down, and we'll turn that off. And then click on Save and Exit. And let's go ahead and update the page and view the front end and refresh the page. All right, so now we have all 3 of our images here. And notice how this third image is not flush with the bottom of this first image. And we're going to adjust that by going back to the back end. And we'll scroll down, and we're going to click on the Module Settings button for the second, or actually the third image, the bottom image there. And let's switch over to Advanced Design Settings and come down next to Custom Margin. We're going to bump this down from the top, and this is going to be a trial and error type of thing like we've been doing. And I found that 40 pixels was a good number. That was the amount needed to make the bottom of this image flush with the bottom of the first image. So I'm going to type in 40, and let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit, and we'll update the page, view the front end, And as soon as I refresh, watch this image bump down a little bit so it'll be flush with the larger image. All right, so you can see that there. Now the next thing I want to do is use this same section here with our light gray background, and I want to add 4 different blurb modules underneath our images, and I want to use 2 different columns. So I'll have 2 blurbs in each column, one on top of the other, and I also want the columns to be evenly spaced. And if you recall, our images are actually in 2 different columns, one here and one here, but they're not evenly spaced. This column is much wider than this one. So let's go back to the back end and we'll scroll down. And of course, within the same section, we're going to click on Add Row, and we're going to choose the 2-column row where they're evenly spaced. So we'll click on that option. And then I'll click on Insert Modules here in the first column, and I'll find the blurb module and click on that. And for this first blurb, I'm going to give it a title of Group Lessons. And I'm actually going to leave the URL blank for all of these. We're not going to link to any other page. And then I'll scroll down. And I do want to use an icon, so I'll change that to yes, and then I'll come down, and within the icons, I'll scroll down, and I'll find the group lessons icon that I'm going to use, and that's going to be this 2-person icon, so I'll click on that. And then let's scroll down, and I am going to leave the icon color set to our green theme accent color. This is the green from our color palette, and I'm not going to circle the icon this time. And instead of having the icon on top of our blurb like we did previously at the top of our front page, I'm going to change this to be on the left, and this way the icons will be much smaller. And I'm going to turn the icon animation off by clicking No Animation. And I do want the text to be dark so that it shows up on our light gray background for the section color that we have. And for the text orientation, I'm going to leave that to left. And then for the content below the title, I'm going to copy and paste some text here. Copy that and paste that in. And go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And let's go ahead and click on Update. And we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so you can see that we have our first blurb in place there, and let's go back to the back end and add our other 3. So we'll scroll down, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the Clone Module button here to duplicate the first blurb module. And then for the second blurb module, I'm going to click on the Module Settings button and change the title. It's going to be Music Theory. And then I'll scroll down, and for this time, for the icon, I'm going to find the music symbol icon. Right here, I'll click on that, and then I'll scroll down and leave all these other settings the same. Since we cloned the module, it's going to take on all the same settings, so we don't have to worry about anything, but we do need to change the content, so we'll select what's there and delete it. Go back to the back end, or go back to my text here, and I'll copy the music theory text that I want. Paste that in, click on Save and Exit, and then we'll clone this module. And I'll click, hold, and drag and release that into this column, and we'll click on the Module Settings button, and we'll change the title to Private Lessons, and scroll down, and I'll change the icon to this individual person icon, and then we'll scroll down and replace the content, select what's there and delete it, copy this text and paste that in. Click on Save and Exit, and we'll clone this blurb module, and this will be our last one. We'll click on the Module Settings button, and the title for this one is going to be Advanced Lessons. So I'll type that in, and we'll choose a different icon. All right, and then we'll come down and replace the content. Select what's there, delete it, and I'll copy this last bit of text and paste that in. Click on Save and Exit, and then we'll come up and click on Update, and we'll switch over to the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so now we have all 4 of our blurbs in place. Now the next thing I want to do is add another section underneath our blurb modules here, and I want this section to have text, and I also want it to have its own background image. And this time I'm going to use what's called the Parallax effect for the background image. And the parallax effect is just a neat effect that you can use to give your image a fixed position. And as you scroll, you'll see different parts of the background image. And this is going to make more sense in just a moment when you actually see the effect take place. So to do that, let's go back to our back end. And of course, we're on the page editor for the home page. We'll scroll down. And I'm going to click on Add Standard Section because we're going to use a separate background. And this is going to be a one column row, so I'll go ahead and choose that option. And then I'm going to click on the section settings button, and I'm going to click on upload an image next to background image. And I'm going to click on upload files and click on select files. And I've got this file on my computer. And remember, for section background images, I'm using the large image downloaded from Pixabay. So I'll find that here. All right, and you can see that the dimensions, it's over 2,500 pixels wide. And I'll click on Open. And then I'll click Set as Background. And before I set the parallax effect, I'm just going to leave the standard options in place so that you can see the difference. So I'm going to click on Save and Exit for now. And then I'm going to click on Insert Module. And I'm going to find the text module. I'll click on that. And I actually want the text to be light so that it shows up on this background image that I'm using. So I'll change that to light. And I also want to center the text, so I'll change that to center. Then I'll scroll down, and I'm going to copy and paste some text that I have here. I'll copy the second section of text. And the first line of text, I want it to say Our Mission. And this is going to be the mission statement. Then I'm going to press Enter and paste in that paragraph that I just copied. All right, and go ahead and click on Save and Exit. Then we'll scroll up and update the page. And let's view the front end and refresh the page. All right, so now when I scroll down, you can see that we have our background image in place and we have our text. And when I scroll, notice that the background image is exactly the same all the way throughout. It doesn't change at all. So let's go back to the back end. And this time I'm going to scroll down and click on the section settings button. And then scroll down to access the parallax effect. It's towards the bottom where it says Use Parallax Effect. I'm going to switch that to Yes by clicking there. Click on Save and Exit, and then we'll scroll up and update the page and view the front end of our site and refresh. All right, so now when I scroll, notice that the background image is sort of fixed on the page, and when we scroll, we see different parts of the background image, and this will actually become even more apparent when we add content below this section so that when we scroll, we can see even more of the image. All right, now I want to go back and I want to make the text a little bit larger, and also I want to make it so that there are 3 different lines of text, and you can see we have this last line is just one word. I want the lines of text to be more evenly spaced. So to do that, let's go back to the back end. And we'll scroll down, and we're going to click on the module settings button for the text module, and I'll switch over to advanced design settings. And first I'll bump the text font size up to 18. I'll type in 18, and then for max width, so that our text lines are more evenly spaced, this is again a trial and error type of number, but I found that 900 pixels was a good width. So I typed in, or I'm going to type in 900 there, and click on Save and Exit, and we'll scroll up and update the page and view the front end and refresh. All right, so now we have a new section with our text module and a background image that uses the parallax effect. All right, the last thing I want to do on our home page is add a testimonial section, and I want to have a 1-column slideshow, and I want to have 2 testimonials in that slideshow, and then underneath that I want to have 2 more testimonials on one row. So to do that, let's go back to the back end, and we'll scroll down. And I'm going to add a new standard section because I don't want any of these testimonials to be on the same background that we have in this section. So we're going to add a new standard section by clicking there. And the first thing I want to do is choose the 1-column option. So I'll select that. And of course, the standard section background will just be white by default. And first of all, I'm going to click on Insert Modules and scroll down, and I'm going to add a text module. and the text is just going to say testimonials. So I'll just type that in. And I do want to center the text, and I do want to leave the text color dark so that it shows up on our white section background color. And then I'm going to switch over to Advanced Design Settings and change the font to 34. So I'll select that, type in 34, and then go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And we'll scroll up and click on Update and view the front end. Refresh the page. All right, so you see we now have our new section with the text module, and then we'll go back to the back end and scroll down. And I can use this same row to add our slideshow because I want the slideshow to also be a one column row. So I can just click on Insert Modules, and I'm going to find the slideshow module, and that's going to be the slider here. So I'll click on Slider, and then first of all, we'll go over a few of the slideshow options. I do want to leave the arrows visible, so I'll leave that option to the default. And I'll do the same with controls. I'll leave that to show slider controls. And you do have the option to enable automatic animation. And if you did that, your slides would transition into each other, one after the other, automatically. And I'm actually going to leave automatic animation off, but you could enable that by clicking where it says off and change that to on. And then you need to set an automatic animation speed, and you would do that by clicking here. And if I wanted my slide to remain fixed on the page for 4 seconds, for example, before switching to the next slide, I would need to type in 4,000, and that's going to represent 4,000 milliseconds. But I'm going to delete that and turn automatic animation back off, then scroll up, and then to add your slides, we're going to click on Add New Slide. And for this first slide, I'm going to give it a heading of testimonial. So I'll type that in. And then you do have the option to have a button on your slide, and you could type in the button text and you would copy and paste the URL for the button link, but I'm going to leave the buttons turned off. And then for the background image, this is where you upload the image that will cover the entire slide. So I'm going to click on Upload an Image. And for my first slide, I'll click on Upload Files and click on Select Files. And I'm going to find this on my hard drive. I've got it right here, so I'll select that and click on Open. And then I'll click on Set as Background. And then I'll scroll down, and I'm going to leave these other options set to default. Now, I do want to make sure that I have light text enabled because white text is going to be more legible on the slides. So I'll make sure light is selected there. Then I'll scroll down, and I'm going to add my slide content by copying and pasting some text in. So I'll select this, copy that, and paste that in here. And then I'll go ahead and click on Save to save this first slide. And then to add my second slide, I'm going to click on Add New Slide. And then for the heading, I'll type in testimonial again. And then I'll leave the button settings blank. And then I'll scroll down and click on Upload an Image. And I'll click on Upload Files here, select Files. And this time I'm going to use this image here. So I'll select that and click on Open. And then Set as Background. And then I'll scroll down. And I've got light text selected there, and then I'll scroll down and copy and paste in some content. So I'll select the testimonial text, copy that, and paste that in. And of course, all the other options are set to the default, and then I'll click on Save. And let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And I'll scroll up and update the page. Then we'll view the front end of our site and refresh. And scroll down. All right, so you see we now have our testimonial in place with the slideshow, and notice that it's not transitioning automatically because that's the setting that I chose, but I do have the option to hover over the slides and use these arrows to switch to the different slides. Now, one thing I do want to point out, if we look at the first slide, the text that we have in place is a little bit difficult to read, especially right here. And this is because part of this background is a lot lighter than other parts of it. And there's another really neat trick that I want to show you to make this a lot more legible. So what we're going to do is use another free online service to make the background image that we have a lot darker. So we're going to open a new tab, and we're going to go to pixlr.com. That's pixlr.com. And we'll scroll down. and we're going to find the Pixlr editor, and we're going to click on Launch Web App. And we're going to click on Open Image from Computer. And we're going to find that same image that we added to our slideshow on our computer. And I've got that right here, so I'll select that and click on Open. And then what I'm going to do is come up, and where it says Layer, I'm going to click on Layer, and then click on New Layer. And over here on the right, you'll notice that that added a new transparent layer over the background image. And then with this layer selected, so make sure you click on that so it's highlighted in blue, we're going to come over here to the left, and we're going to find the paint bucket tool. We'll click on that. And then right here, make sure that the black color is selected. And if you need to change that, you can click on it. And you would just make ssure the hex code here is 6 zeros. And it already is by default, so we'll click on OK. And then I'm just going to click with the paint bucket tool selected. I'm just going to click on the image, and that's going to make the entire image black. And then what I want to do is turn the transparency on so that it's only partially black. So what I can do is come over here with the layer selected. I can click on this icon, and then where it says opacity and it says 100%, I'm going to type in 40. All right, and that makes it darker, and it still looks really nice and professional. So now I'm just going to go to File and click on Save. And we're going to save this as Guitar Portrait Edited. And I'll click on OK. And I'm just going to save this to my desktop, and I'll click on Save. And now I'll go back to the back end, and I'll scroll down. And I'll click on the Module Settings button for the slider. And I'll click on the module set or the slide setting button for the top slide, since that's the image we want to change. And then where it says background image, I'll click on Upload an Image. And I'm going to click on Upload Files and click on Select Files. And then I'll find that file on my desktop, that new image. I've got it right here. I'll click on Open. And then click on Set as Background. And let's go ahead and click on Save here to save the slide. And by the way, I do want to point out you can rearrange your slides by holding and dragging just like that. But I want to leave my slides in the same order, so I'll reverse that. And go ahead and click on Save and Exit, and we'll scroll up. Click on Update. And then we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, notice how much easier it is to read the slide text now. All right, the last thing I want to do on my homepage is add 2 more testimonials underneath our testimonial slideshow. And I want to have a 2-column row with 1 testimonial in each column. So to do that, let's go back to the back end, and we'll scroll down. And I'm going to use the same section, and I'm just going to click on Add Row to add a new row. And I want the 2-column option where both columns are evenly spaced, so I'll select that. And then I'll click on Insert Module, and I'm going to scroll down and find the Testimonial module here and click on that. And this first testimonial, I'm going to give the author a name, and that's going to be Jen Doe, so I'll type that in. And then you do have the option to use the job title, the company name, and you can even link to the testimonial author's website if they have one, or a LinkedIn page, for example, whatever you wanted to do. And you would put that URL here, and that would make the author's name clickable, and that would open up that page. But I'm going to leave these blank, and I'll scroll down. Now I do want to add an image, so I'll click on Upload an Image, and then I'll click on Upload Files and Select Files, and I'll find this file on my hard drive. And I've got the image right here. I'll click on that and click on Open, and then I'll click Set as Image, and then let's scroll down. And I am going to leave the quote icon to visible, and I'll show you what that is in just a moment. And also I want to leave the background color on, and you could change the background color by clicking here, but by default it's going to be this light gray, and I like that, so I'm going to leave that to the default setting. And then we'll scroll down, and because we have a light gray background, we do need to have dark text so that the text is visible. And then I'll leave the text orientation set to left, and then I'll copy and paste some content for the testimonial that I have. So I'll select that and paste that in here. And let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit, and we'll scroll up and click on Update. And then we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so now we have our first testimonial in place, and this is the quote icon that I decided to leave set to visible. What I want to do is go back and change the color of this icon and make it the green from our color palette, and I also want to increase the size of the testimonial photo. So to do that, let's go back to the back end, and then we'll scroll down, and we'll click on the Testimonial Module Settings button. And I'm going to switch over to Advanced Design Settings. And right here for quote icon color, I'm going to click on Choose Custom Color and then click on Select Color. And then I'll go back to my color palette and get the hex code for our green. Copy that. Go back and paste that in here. And then to increase the size of my testimonial portrait, I'm going to come down where it says Portrait Width and Portrait Height. I'm going to bump up where it says 90 for both of these. I'm going to make that 110. So I'll type that in, and then I'll type that in again for the portrait height, and scroll up. And I also want to point out that the border radius for the portrait image is set at 90, and this is going to make a circle. If you didn't want to have a circular image and you just wanted a square image, you could just bump that all the way down to 0, but I like the circular look, so I'll leave that as it is. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Save and Exit, and then we'll scroll up and update the page. And then we'll view the front end and refresh. All right, so notice we have our green icon now, and our testimonial portrait is a little bit larger. Now the next thing I want to do is duplicate this module into our other column, and that way it will save the settings for our green icon and the portrait size, and then we'll just replace the image and the text. So let's go back to the back end, and we'll scroll down. And let's click on the clone module icon here for the testimonial. And then I'll click, hold, and drag and release that into our other column. And then I'll click on the module settings. And I'll change the author name to Jim Doe. So I'll type that in. And I'll leave these blank, and I'll scroll down. And for the portrait image, I'm going to click on Upload an Image. Click on Upload Files. Click on Select Files. And we'll find our other portrait. I've got that right here. I'll select that and click on Open. And then click Set as Image. And then we'll scroll down and we'll leave these other settings to the default, and we'll replace the content by selecting it and deleting it. And I'll copy and paste some text. Paste that in. Go ahead and click on Save and Exit, and we'll scroll up and click on Update and view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so now we have both of our testimonial modules in place. Now notice that because we have a longer testimonial here for Jim Doe, the testimonial is going to be larger. And I want to show you how you can even these out if one of your testimonials is longer than the others. What you can do is use the Measure It tool that we've been using. So I'll activate the Measure It tool, and I'm going to measure the larger testimonial box by click, holding, and dragging, and this is going to give me the height and width. And what I'm interested in is the height, and you can see that the height is about 236. So what I want to do is make the height of both of these about 240 pixels tall. So I'm going to press Escape, and I'm going to go back to the back end, and then I'll scroll down. And for each one of these, I'm going to click on the Module Settings button, and I'm going to switch over to Custom CSS, and we're going to go to the main element, and you're just going to type in min-height, space, and we'll type in 240 px, semicolon, and click on Save and Exit. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other testimonial. We'll click on the Testimonial Settings button, click on Custom CSS, and we'll type in min-height, space, 240 px, semicolon. And I'll leave this code in the video description below the video on YouTube. And you don't need to know anything about CSS to be able to do this. You would just replace the 240 with whatever numbers you got with the Measure It tool in your case. And let's go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And then we'll scroll up and we'll click on Update. And we'll switch back to the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so notice that we now have the same size testimonial modules. All right, now the next thing I want to do is show you how you can save any of the layouts that you create and apply those layouts to other pages that you might want to have the same or a similar layout. So for example, for our home page that we just created, we've got all these different rows and columns and modules here. So we can save this layout by going back to the back end, and of course we're on the page editor for the home page, and then we just need to click on Save to Library right underneath the Divi Builder. And we'll give it a title. We'll call it Homepage Layout, and I'll click on Save. And then I'll click on Update to make sure that save takes effect. And then what I want to do is create another page. So let's go to Pages and click on Add New. And I'm going to call this page Home Page Example 2. So I'll type that in for the title. And then I'm going to click on Use the Divi Builder. And then to load the layout that we just saved, I'm going to come down and click on Load from Library. And then I'll click on Add from Library. And then I will simply click on Load next to Homepage Layout. And that's going to load the exact content that we have on our homepage. And so we can publish the page. And now I won't be able to access this page from the front end because I haven't added it to the menu. So I'm going to do that really quickly by going back to the back end. And I'll go to Appearances and click on Menus. And then I'm going to switch over to my main navigation menu by selecting that and click on Select. And over here on the left under Pages, I'm going to find the homepage example number 2, and I've got it here at the top. I'll select that and click on Add to Menu. And I'm actually going to make this a drop-down menu under Home, so I'll click, hold, and drag and put that underneath Home, and then I'm going to indent that a little bit, just like that. And then I'll click on Save to Menu. And now when we view the front end of our site and refresh the page, we can now hover over Home and click on Homepage Example number 2. And of course, it's going to be exactly the same because we haven't changed any of the content. We just loaded the same layout. Now I'm going to go back and just for this Homepage Example number 2, I'm going to remove the video so that we have the black and white background that we have. And let's go back to the back end. And I'll go back to Pages, click on All Pages, and I'm going to click on Homepage Example 2. And then for the section settings, I'm going to click on the section settings button for the top section. And remember, we do have the black and white background for mobile devices already in place. So I'm going to just delete the video by selecting the URL and pressing delete for both of these, the MP4 and the WebM file. Select the URL and delete that. And then I'll click on Save and Exit, and I'll click on Update. And now when we go back and view the front end, we're on this home page example number 2, and I'll refresh the page. All right, so notice we just have the black and white background showing up. And of course, I can click on the logo to be taken back to the home page where we have our video. Now, the next thing I want to do is add a homepage example number 3 with the same layout, except I want to change the background image, and I want to remove the call to action black transparent background that we have here. So let's go back to the back end. And I'll go to Pages, click on Add New, and I'll call this Homepage Example 3, and click on Use the Divi Builder, and I'll click on Load from Library, and I'll click on Add from Library, and I'm going to select the same homepage layout by clicking on Load. And then what I'm going to do is come over and click on the Section Settings button, and I'm going to scroll down and go ahead and remove the video again, since we're still using the same layout. So I'll delete that there, and then I'll select the URL here and delete that as well. And be sure to delete every character, and then we'll come up. And I'm going to replace this background image by clicking on Upload an Image. And I'm going to use the piano image that we have here, and I've already got it uploaded, and you can see that I've got 2 of these. I'm going to use the larger of the 2 files since it will be a background image. And you can see when I click on that, it is the 2500 pixel wide image, so this is the larger one that I want. So then I'll click on Set as Background, and then I'll go ahead and click on Save and Exit. And let's go ahead and publish the page by clicking on Publish. And we need to add this page to our navigation menu. So we'll go to Appearances, click on Menus, and we'll make sure we've got the main navigation menu selected. And I'll click on Homepage Example 3 and click on Add to Menu. And then I'm going to click, hold, and drag to make this a drop down under Home as well. And I'll release it there. Go ahead and click on Save Menu. And then we'll view the front end of our site and refresh the page. and I can hover over home, and now I have the option to click on homepage example 3. And when I click on that, you can see that we have the exact same layout, except we have this new background image. Everything else is exactly the same. Now, the next thing I want to do is remove this black transparent background, because with this particular background image, the white text should be very easy to read without having any extra help. So let's go back to the back end, and we'll go back to Pages, click on All Pages, and we'll open up that homepage example 3 again by clicking on it. And then to remove the call to action background, we'll click on the call to action module settings button here. And we'll switch over, or actually we'll scroll down, and where it says use background color, I'm going to switch that to no. And then I'll click on save and exit, and then we'll click on update and view the front end of our site. And we're already on this page. We'll refresh the page. All right, that looks great. And of course, everything else is exactly the same. All right, the next thing I want to do is show you how to update the Divi theme. As I've been working on this video tutorial, a new update has become available. So what you would do is open up a new tab, and you go to elegantthemes.com, and then you would click on Login. And I'm actually already logged in, but you would log in with your credentials, and then click on Docs here at the bottom left. And then click on How to update your theme to the latest version here. And then we need to download the zip file. So just click on where it says download the zip file, and this is going to download the Elegant Themes Updater plugin. So we can click on that, and be sure to save the file. You want to definitely save it so that it doesn't open. If it opens, it might unzip the file, and we do need it to remain a zipped file. So we'll save that, and I'm going to click on OK, and I've got that set to download to my desktop. And then after this downloads, you're going to go back to the back end and come down here on the left, hover over Plugins, and click on Add New. And then we'll click on Upload a Plugin here at the top. And then we'll click on Browse, and you'll find that Elegant Themes Updater plugin that you just downloaded. And I've got mine saved to my desktop. So I'll click on that and click on Open. And then click on Install Now. And then we need to click on Activate Plugin here on the left. All right, and now we can go and hover over Settings here, and then click on General. And now with the new Updater plugin activated, we can scroll down. And here at the bottom, you can input your Elegant Themes username and your API key. And your username will be just your Elegant Themes username. So I'll type mine in. And then the API key, we'll go back to our Elegant Themes membership area. And we're logged in. We're going to click on Account. And we'll scroll down and click on your API key here. And then you would just copy and paste every character of your API key. Then let's go back to the back end. We'll come down and we'll paste that in right here. And then we'll scroll down and click on Save Changes. And now we can go to Appearance and click on Themes. And now you can see that we have an update available for the Divi theme. So I'm going to hover over the Divi theme and click on Theme Details. And then I now have this option to click on Update Now, since we linked our WordPress site to our Elegant Themes membership with the Updater plugin. So I'll click on Update Now. And that's going to update my theme to the latest version. All right, the last thing we need to do is set up our footer area. So I'm going to go back to the front end of my site, and I'll click on the logo to be taken back to the home page. Then I'll scroll down to the footer. All right. So with the Divi theme, our footer area is going to use what are called widgets and widget areas. So to access those, let's go back to the back end. And we're going to go to Appearances and click on Widgets. And widgets are basically tools that you can use to add different features and functionality options to your site, and WordPress will come with several widgets by default. Also, different themes and plugins may come with widgets of their own that you can use, and all of your widgets are going to show up here on the left under Available Widgets. And then on the right, we have our widget areas, and different themes will come with different widget areas. The Divi theme has a sidebar widget area and then 4 footer widget areas. Now, first notice you might need to click on the sidebar widget area to bring down all the widgets that currently populate this sidebar. But notice that by default, we have these 6 widgets in place. And this is standard with a new WordPress installation. And if you recall earlier in the video when we first created our pages before we switched over to using the Divi Builder to customize our page layouts and add content, you actually had this sidebar area showing up on each page. And notice that the same 6 widgets that were showing up on our site earlier are the same widgets that we have in our sidebar by default here. Now, since I'm using the Divi Builder to customize my layout for all of my pages, I don't need to use this sidebar widget area, but I will, however, use a footer widget. But first, I do need to set up my footer area. So to do that, let's go to Divi and click on Theme Customizer. And then click on Footer here, and we'll click on Layout. And underneath Column Layout, this is where we select how many columns we want in our footer. Now recall that we have up to 4 footer widget areas to use. So if I click here, and if we selected this 4-column option, that would activate all 4 of those footer widget areas. Now in my case, I only want to use 1 footer widget, so I'm going to go with the 1-column option, so I'll click on that. And then let's go ahead and click on Save and Publish. And then we'll click on X to be taken back to the main part of our back end. And of course, back under Appearance in Widgets, we're going to add a text widget to our footer. And since we only have the 1-column option selected, I only need to use this footer area number 1. So to add the text widget, we'll scroll down on the left to find it. And I've got it right here. I'll click on that. And then I can scroll down and assign it to the widget area. And I want it assigned to footer area number 1. So I'll select that and click on Add Widget. And that's going to add the widget to footer area number 1, and it's going to bring up the widget options, and I can click on the top of the widget to minimize or bring up those options. And a text widget is great because you can use HTML code and or plain text. And I just want to have the copyright symbol, which is going to be an HTML code, and then I want it to say 2016 musical acquisition. So I'll click here where it says content, and to add the copyright symbol, the HTML code for that is going to be the and symbol, which to get that you would hold Shift on your keyboard and click on the 7 key at the same time. And then I'll type in the word copy and semicolon, and that's going to be the copyright symbol. And then I can just type in space, and I'll type in 2016 musical acquisition. And then we can click on Save to save this widget to our footer area number 1. And I'll click on the text widget to minimize those options. And I do want to show you, if you are using the sidebar widget area, or if you have multiple widgets added, you can remove widgets by clicking on them and clicking on delete there. You can also, I'll minimize that again, you can also rearrange your widgets by click holding and dragging and releasing. But of course, we're not using the sidebar widget area. I just wanted to go over that really quickly. Now let's view the front end of our site. And we're all the way down at our footer. When I refresh the page, notice we now have our footer area showing up, and we've got the copyright symbol and 2016 musical acquisition. Alright, the next thing I want to do is show you how to customize your footer text color here and also the background color. And then after that, we'll be discussing the bottom bar in the footer, including how to remove the elegant themes and WordPress attribution. So to adjust your footer text color and background color, let's go back to the back end, and we'll come down, hover over Divi, and click on Theme Customizer. And then I'll scroll down in the preview all the way down to the footer. Alright, and then I'll come over here on the left and click on Footer. And then we'll click on Layout, and then to change the background color where it says Footer Background Color, we can click on Select Color, and we can change this to any color we want using a hex code, or we can just click on any of these options, and we have the option to move the cursor to any color we want. But I'm going to leave this set to the default, so I'll click on Default. I just like the look of this neutral gray with the rest of my website color scheme. Now I'm going to back out one. And now I'm going to click on Widgets, and to change the footer text color, where it says Widget Text Color, we can click on Select Color, and by default it's white, but I can change this again to any color I want, like that for example, but I'm going to leave this on the default option. And then I do want to point out that if you're using other widgets in your footer, then you'll have the option a lot of times to change the header. So you have the header text size and then also the header color, and you can adjust that here. But I just have this text, so that's all I need to worry about. Now I'm going to back up once more, and I do want to point out, if you did create a menu and you assigned it to the footer theme location, you would have this footer menu option and you can click on that and you have all these options you can go through. But we don't have a footer menu, so I don't need to worry about that. So I'll back up. And the next thing I want to do is show you how to remove this Elegant Themes and WordPress attribution. And of course, if you made any changes, you would need to click on Save and Publish, but I left everything to the default, so I'm just going to press the X to be taken to the main part of the back end, and I'll leave the page. And then over here on the left, towards the bottom, I'll hover over Divi and click on Theme Options. And of course now, since we've upgraded to the latest version of Divi, we have this new modern theme options panel showing the same options that we had previously. And what you'll do is scroll down to the bottom, and next to Custom CSS, we're just going to add a simple code, and you can either type this in or you can copy and paste it. I'll leave it in the video description on YouTube beneath the video, but you're just going to type in the pound symbol and then footer-info space. And then we'll use an opening bracket, and both the opening and closing bracket you access by holding Shift on your keyboard, and it's the two keys next to the letter P. And then I'll type in display, and then colon, space, none, and then semicolon, and then I'll use a closing bracket. And then let's go ahead and click on Save Changes. And then we can view the front end of our site, and we're already at the footer. I'll refresh the page. All right, and now our attribution is removed. Now, the next thing I want to do is show you how to customize these social media links. This is completely optional, and to do that, we'll go back to the back end. And of course, we're on the Divi theme options page, and this is just a review. First of all, you do have to have the social media profiles set up, and you would do that. I'll scroll up to the top, and then we'll scroll down. You would do that by, first of all, turning them on, and you have Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and RSS options. And of course, we have Facebook and Twitter enabled, but you would just be able to check the box to enable or disable each of those. And then beneath that, you would have the place to put in the social media URLs. And these are just going to be the links to your actual social media pages. So we have the URL for Facebook and the URL for Twitter here. And then, of course, you would need to save any changes. And then after you have that set up, we're going to go back to hover over Divi and click on Theme Customizer. And then we'll click on Footer again. And then click on Footer Elements. And I'll scroll down in our preview. And you can see by default, our social icons are checked. And if I did not want to show these social media icons, I could simply uncheck that. But I actually want to leave that enabled, so I'll check the box there. And then let's go ahead and go back one. And we'll just back up to the main menu. We'll click on Footer again. And you can change the background color for your bottom bar here by clicking on where it says bottom bar. And where it says background color, we can click on select color. And you can see it's set to some sort of transparency by default. So part of the main footer background is actually showing through on this bottom bar. But if I bumped the transparency all the way back up, I could change this to any color that I want. But I'm going to leave it set to the default option. Also, just so you know, if you wanted to change your social icon colors, you can do that here by clicking on select color. And if I wanted mine to be blue, for example, that would change it just like that. But I'm going to leave that to the default as well. And then, of course, if you did make any changes, you would need to click on Save and Publish so that those changes take effect. The last thing I want to do is take care of a few finishing touches, and I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this to be taken back to the main part of the back end, and I'll leave the page. And then let's view the front end of our site, and we're, of course, on our front page. I want to show you how to make your headings bold, and certain modules will have headings, and the Blurb modules, for example, have headings here, and your call to action modules will have headings if you utilize the title section of the call to action. So to make those bold, we're going to go back to the back end, and we're going to hover over Divi, click on Theme Customizer. And then let's click on General Settings, and then we'll click on Typography. And then right here under Header Font Style, I'm going to scroll down on our front end. You can see our blurbs, and we have this call to action here with the titles. When I change the header font style and click on the B to make that bold, you can see that take effect there. And I just think this is a really neat way to make your heading stand out. So we're going to leave that as it is and go ahead and click on Save and Publish. And then let's view the front end of our site and refresh the page. All right, so now we have our bold headings. The last thing we need to do is make an adjustment to some of our text modules, and recall that we utilized a text module for the text Discover Your Creative Self on our home pages here, and also on all of our page titles we utilized text modules. Now watch what happens when I resize the browser window as if we're viewing our site on a mobile device. First of all, notice, of course, we are seeing a video background, but on mobile devices, we would actually see the background image that we have in place. But everything else is going to be exactly the same as you see it here on mobile devices. And the real thing I want to point out is notice how the text Discover Your Creative Self is jumbled up and bunched up together like that. But everything else, I'll just scroll down, everything else on our site looks great on mobile devices, just to show you. So to fix this, what we need to do is, I'll resize the window. This is going to happen with text modules. It's just kind of a weird quirk, and it will happen on text modules when the text is a little bit longer. So on my home pages, and then on a couple of my other pages that have longer titles, such as the Frequently Asked Questions page title and the Contact Us page, those need to be adjusted, and I'm just going to adjust it once, but you would apply it in your case wherever you needed to do that. So let's go back to the back end, and I'll exit out of this to be taken to the main part of the back end. And then I'll go to Pages and click on All Pages, and I'm just going to make the adjustment to my home page, the main home page here, so I'll open that up. And then what we need to do is click on the Module Settings button for the text module. And we're going to switch over to Advanced Design Settings. And actually, I'll go back to General Settings just so you know, of course, we are editing the Discover Your Creative Self text module. And then I'll switch to Advanced Design Settings. And let's scroll down, and the text line height is what we need to adjust. And I'm just going to click, hold, and drag all the way down to 1, and then click on Save and Exit, and click on Update. And now when we view the front end of our site and refresh the page, and then I'll resize the browser window again, notice that that completely took care of the issue. All right, I would like to congratulate you for making it through the entire video. I know it's quite lengthy, but hopefully you were able to learn a lot. And I also hope you decide to try out the Divi theme. I think you'll really enjoy working with it and all the additional features and functionality it provides. Also, please don't forget to like the video on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, add the video as a favorite, comment on the video, and share the video with other friends and family. Even just doing a couple of these things can make a big difference in the success of my videos, and I really appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you do need hosting, my HostGator coupon codes again are WP Sculptor 1 cent and WP Sculptor 30, that's WP Sculptor 30. And you can also show your support by going to wpsculptor.com/Divi to purchase the Divi theme if you do in fact decide to use it. And I cannot thank you enough for your support, and I hope to see you next time.